Donald Allen are suing their son, 23-year-old electrician Daniel Allen, and his wife Trista for loans they made after Daniel got out of jail. Daniel says the money was never a loan.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 259 on the calendar in the matter of Allen versus Allen. Vice have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Allen, the defendants are your son and daughter-in-law, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's your claim that they owe you jointly a substantial amount of money, both from loans and from a cell phone bill that they managed to creep up to the thousands. Mr. Allen, you were in jail. When?
The first time for 4 years, and then just this past November till this year.
You served 4 years in state's prison?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
From 97 until September of last year, 2000.
September of 2000. What were you convicted of, sir?
Arson, 451C.
What did you burn down?
Condemned apartment complex.
Then you were arrested again?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
A parole violation.
What was the nature of the violation?
A threat to harass another and leaving the county without a pass.
Who did you harass?
A former employer, supposedly.
Is the complaint of your parents that when you got out of jail, I believe the first time in the year 2000, you needed some money, and they helped you with a series of loans. How much did you give your son when he got out of jail the first time in 2000?
About $1,400.
How do you have that broken down?
$65 in uniforms, $60 for gas, and what he told me was birth control pills, $150 cash for expenses. He told me they needed money for food. We gave him $100. And then he switched jobs after he got arrested the second time, and he needed $60 for steel-toed shoes this time. We gave them $450 for rent while they were still living in their old apartment, $15 for DMV fees that he conveniently didn't have the day he had to go to the DMV, $85 for gas, usually, $20 here, $40 here, $200 for carpet for their rental, and $150 cash for miscellaneous expenses. And when we were on vacation in July, he called us and said he needed $80 to make his car payment. So we gave him that.
Miss Allen, did you have a conversation with your son with regard to paying you back this money?
Several times. It was always going to be paid back on payday, when they could get it or when he got paid from a separate job that he was doing. Each time the money just disappeared.
Well, but you kept giving him money, Miss Allen.
Well, because every time I asked him for money, he hinted that I was taking food out of my grandchildren's mouths.
So despite the fact that he didn't pay you back any of this money, week after week, month after month, he would ask you for more, 15, 100, 85, and you would continue to give it to him.
He did pay back some money. He did, he gave my husband $100 at the mall one day, $40 here, $20 here, a total of $435. So well, just enough to keep me doling it out, I guess.
So what's the total of what you say he owes you now, without the phone bill?
$1,415.
And did you keep records of that money at the time that you actually gave him the money, or did you recap in your head at some later time?
I wrote it down in my, I have an address book. I just wrote it down, how much I gave him, but I didn't write dates or anything. I just wrote it down so I could keep track, so when I said, hey, you owe me this much money, I would at least know how much.
Okay. Now tell me about the telephone bill.
He had some problems, and he said that his wife would feel a lot better if she had a way to get a hold of him, which, knowing his track record, that was a good idea. She needed a way to get a hold of him. So he asked me if I would get a cell phone in my name. I already had one, and my husband and I both have cell phones, and he said he would pay the monthly bill on that.
And did he do that?
He paid one bill of $144 because the phone got disconnected, and I just wasn't going to pay it anymore.
How much is still owed on his bill?
It totals $2,008.05. And to date on both the cell phone and the loan, he's only paid $435.
I hear you.
There's a lot to be told, Your Honor. We'll start with the loans, the miscellaneous loans. When I came home, my wife was working between 40 and 60 hours a week and making over $2,000 a month. We didn't borrow money from her when I first came home the first time. We had no need to borrow money from her. I had $200 gate money that, substantial amount of money for me to have to be home and find a job and get work. I remember her offering to pay for uniforms. I've never once, there's a lot of things in her list of loans that she said, You know, as for example, like, you know, for rent for the new house or carpet for the new house. You know, we moved out less than a mile from her house to where she could be closer to the grandkids. It was kind of like a helping thing. I had to get away from the place where I was, so she helped us out. It was her friends we rented the house from.
Is what you're saying, Mr. Allen, that you didn't take this money from your mother?
No, I didn't call her and say, Mom, I need money, please. You know, you're taking food out of my kid's mouth. I would never say that to her.
That's not what I asked you. What I asked you was, are you telling me that your mother is lying when she says that she gave you, over a period of time, $1,415 in small amounts for a variety of things? Shoes, uniforms, gas money, a month's rent, money for carpeting. Are you telling me that she's lying when she's telling me that?
I'm not saying she's lying about those things, but as for her to say that she loaned it to us and said, okay, you'll give it back to me, the agreement was, here you go. It wasn't, Mom, I need money, I'll give it back to you on Friday when I get paid. Mom,
well, how would she know that you needed money?
We would be talking. You see, my mom keeps everything
No, listen
close.
to me. How would she know that you needed money? How would she know, for instance, that you needed money for the DMV and that you didn't have it?
She was with me when we went to the DMV. She was with me. I went to go pull out money. My wife had the check. She said, oh, I'll take care of it. I was driving her around that day. Her car was in the shop. It was like gas money. I mean, this is how she works. She'll say, I'll take care of that, and then 5 days later when she's angry at you, she'll try to sue you for it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Roberta and Donald Allen say their son, Daniel Allen, owes for loans they made after he got out of jail. The Allens say Daniel served 4 years on an arson conviction.
Let's go to the phone bill.
We could talk about the phone bill.
We could.
The phone bill.
I think that right now is the appropriate time.
Back in November, me and my wife tried to set up a cell phone, and they wanted because we had a bankruptcy, they wanted a $1,000 deposit.
So she wasn't doing so well in her job.
No, we had a bankruptcy 3 years previously. It was just something, our credit was messed up. It had nothing to do with, you know, us not having money, but they wanted to deposit a high one. I was talking to my mom about a cell phone. My mom said, hey, I can get one on my account. It won't cost you guys anything. You just give me the 20 bucks for the phone, $40 a month for 500 local, whatever the minutes were. It was like 2,000 minutes a month. We said, yeah, sure, let's do that. That'll help out great. I was incarcerated 3 weeks after we had the phone. I went back for the second time for the threat to harass. My wife, who was handling everything by herself and didn't have an extra income now that I was gone again, she called my mom and said, hey, you know, my mom would call and say, hey, the phone's due, and you can ask her. She said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll handle it until you guys get back on your feet, and that's exact words. I even called my mom from jail and said, hey, Mom, you know, I don't know what you want to do with the phone. You want to take it back? It'll cost me more money to take the phone back.
Where do you get $2,008 in telephone calls?
We've never seen a bill.
Can I see the bill?
These are the front pages to the bills, and I've given him several bills, which he subsequently tore up because he didn't want his wife to see what phone calls were on him. I have the complete...
No, I want the bills with what calls were made.
Here.
The last bill I have here indicates $802.15, which is the total balance.
That's a $150 shut-off fee, $360-some
No,
for the
no,
last
I'm just
bill.
saying, you say, listen to me, Miss Allen, you say he owes you $2,008 for the phone bill. The last bill that I have here is $802.15.
I've been paying the bill.
Are you telling me because you made some payments?
I made a lot of payments, yeah.
How many payments did you make on this phone bill?
We made three, one of $250 and one of $100, and then some minor ones in between that. But those were all without seeing anything but the first bill.
Who lives in Lancaster?
Several people.
Your friends?
Yeah.
Relatives?
I don't know how many different people.
What's Diamond Bar?
A place in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
I don't know what's down there. I don't know who exactly those numbers are.
How many children do you have?
2 and 1 on the way.
I gather from looking at these papers that your parents don't see your children anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is that?
My mother has alienated most of our family. Other siblings don't speak with her, and then we go to my children. We went to Vegas one weekend. It's just the numerous things. I guess my wife can explain it better than that. It was more both of our decisions.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Basically, it's just that she doesn't recognize us as parents. We'll ask her not to do something, and it's constantly going over the line that's set.
Give me an example.
It started when they were planning their trip to Ohio, and she told Theo in front of my 3-year-old, they're 3 and 5, she told the 5-year-old, because that's her favorite, she's made that very clear, that he would be going on her trip with her to Ohio for like 3 weeks was the plan. This was before she ever talked to me or my husband. I came to pick them up because they had spent the night. I think my son said something like, I get to go on an airplane, and I was like, what? And they said, oh yeah, we think it's a good idea for him to come to Ohio with us for our vacation, and went on. Well, they had already said this to my kids. You don't discuss something with a 5-year-old before you make sure it's
You're
okay.
absolutely right.
And then from there, I mean, other things have happened.
Was that recently?
Yeah, she just went in
June, beginning of July was their trip,
But I
and
mean-
it was before that it was discussed.
the situation directly before they left. I mean, she told them, you know, when the fair comes, I'm going to take him on, or no, I'm going to take him to a glider ride. And we told them, no, you're not going to a glider ride. We were sitting, you know, Theo came and said, I'm going on an airplane, a glider ride. And we were like, no, that's not going to happen.
And that was
your mother,
after.
your wife explained it much better
Yeah.
than you did. Did you say that to your 5-year-old, that you were going to take him on a trip?
We were talking about going on our trip. He said he wanted to go. He wanted to know how we were getting there, what we were going to do, and he just was planning on going. And they told him no, it worked out. They called us every day while we were on vacation. Everything was just fine.
There was the blow up about, please don't say these things to him before you talk to me or Danny and know what our answer is. Okay, the glider thing, that was for her birthday. She wanted to take a glider trip, and she wanted her grandson to be with her. Again, she told him, and that she said, because when we picked him up, that she said, I told Theo that he will be going on the glider with me for my birthday. We said, hi, we're the parents. Could you try to talk to us about these things before you discuss it with Theo? 5 minutes after that, she said, oh, fine then, I'll just take you up in a helicopter ride at the fair. Right in front of us without, again, saying anything. I think this all started, all the lawsuits and everything, after we went to Vegas. She has 5 or 6 foster kids, and it's a fun thing for the kids to go and spend the night in the tent in the backyard once in a while. Thursday night they called and asked, can Theo and Brian stay in the tent? They're going to spend the night in the tent tonight. We said, okay, sure, fine. We had already planned for them to watch the boys that weekend when we went to Vegas. I came home, my son comes home and says that he ended up spending, okay, obviously he spent Thursday with our permission, Friday, Saturday night also in the tent. I know with 6 kids, my 5-year-old was in the tent all weekend long. He didn't get sleep. He fell asleep within 10 minutes of being home. That upset me.
Just a minute. Were you in Vegas?
Yes, I was.
Did you have a good time?
Yes, I did.
If you were in Vegas and had a good time when you came home, you have 2 kids?
Yes.
Nobody was in a cast. Nobody had gone for surgery. Right? Shh. Listen.
Okay. Your Honor.
No. Believe me, been there, done that on both sides. Not very hard.
Your Honor, excuse me. Okay.
You have to respect the fact that they're the parents. You, on the other hand, have to understand that if you ask somebody to do you a favor and take care of your children so that you can go on vacation, you relinquish a certain amount of parental authority. So if she wants them to sleep in a tent, if she wants them to sleep on top of a bunk bed, then you just suck it up and say, I had a great 3 days, and the next time, if you don't like the sleeping arrangements, stay home. I guarantee you that once you have the 3rd, it's going to be very hard to get somebody to watch 3 children while you go to Vegas. 3 children being babysat for by somebody who cares for them. I don't care which one is her favorite if she's got one. It doesn't make any difference. Who cares for them? Not a stranger. Grandparents spoil their grandchildren. It's one of the pleasures. Parents like to say, I'm in charge. Listen to me. And you're right. You're in charge. You have the right to make the big decisions if they're going to go on a trip. And you're absolutely right. Before Grandma says you want to come to Ohio with us, she shouldn't say anything. She should just say, we have to talk to your folks about that. And just leave it. Go on to something else. Get his mind off it. And then come and say, I'd really like to take him on a trip. Would it be all right with you? You're absolutely right. I'm not faulting you. But sometimes things happen, and you don't, just because they're grandparents, not that they're perfect. So it may not have come out just the way you thought it came out. The saddest part is you are taking away your children's right to enjoy the widest possible circle of love and affection that they can. And that's from their grandparents, as well as you.
I understand that, Your Honor.
So you shouldn't do it.
But my growing up and my family's growing up with my mother and my father has been totally twisted since we were young.
Then what'd you let him babysit for your children
Okay,
for?
but
No.
no,
No, you answer my question.
because, you know, I was still in the stage of, you know, mommy's, it was a convenience, and Abe,
No,
mommy's
it's
still
a
there.
convenience.
Okay, and then...
So if you say your mother's twisted and your father's twisted, you wouldn't leave them alone
but
with the two
it comes
children
up-
that you like.
That's where we're at right now, and that's why these lawsuits came up, and I have a tape that'll show you, and I have a witness outside that'll come in here and state to you with the email she sends him one day, let me give you something, the next day I'm gonna hang your butt in court. And my witness is outside, and he's...
Not interested.
Okay.
Not interested.
long as
You had a
you-
big mouth and somebody's used this much, used the phone this much. I mean, I have a cell phone. I have a cell phone. I don't even know the number. If I have to call the police on it, if somebody is mugging me, I use it. Otherwise, I'm like a normal person. I sit down near a phone, I make a phone call. Right? If you want to sit on the phone for hours and hours and hours and hours, then you got to pay for that. And if your mother made these little loans to you, she says they're little bits of loans to you. I have a feeling some of them are loans and some of them were not. When you give a child $15, you give a child $20, and you keep doing it over the course of time, then you don't say, well, it was really a loan. And you don't loan your child $15. Did you ever loan your child $15?
Your Honor.
I've never loaned my children anything.
Right. So,
Wish I had.
right. Well, that's true. And I can understand you saying to your daughter-in-law at some point, you worry about it when he gets out of jail because you felt maybe a little bit guilty, a little bit responsible for the children, for their welfare if he wasn't around, so you helped out a little bit. Miss Allen, that's what parents do.
Right.
The saddest thing that I find here is that you're not seeing your grandchildren, and that's the wrong thing to happen.
She won't.
It's not just the two things that we've mentioned. As long as you do everything that she wants you to do or she's happy, then everything's fine. Just like, I mean, we've been in many arguments. The phone's okay until we get in an argument, then she mentions it. We say we want to see the bill. It doesn't happen. And then we get over the argument and everything's fine for a little while.
We've offered her the phone back. As
Do
soon as
you
we offer it
understand
But
back.
when it's a big blow up,
Do
then
you
it's
understand why you're here, though?
the cell
Yeah.
phone.
No.
We could be here because we filed for a restraining order.
You're here because she can't see her grandchildren. That's why you're here. That's the only reason that you're here is because you say this 5-year-old is her favorite.
But it's a pattern. She's also got a lawsuit against our brother-in-law, and
She's
she can't,
suing everybody.
It's not
Your
about
Honor,
not seeing that
They
grandchild.
both filed for restraining orders against me, which neither one of them showed up for in court after I paid an attorney.
For him.
They owe me $500 for lawyer fees.
Listen, I just said to your son and daughter-in-law that the reason you were here and the reason you were angry is because you weren't seeing your grandchildren. That doesn't mean that I don't find that they owe you some money. I think that they do owe you some money. But I also think that you have to grow up a little bit. And if you want to avail yourself of babysitting services, and if they use Huggies instead of Pampers, and if they don't give them a tubby every night like you would, you just have to blink your eyes and say it's part of the price you pay for going away on vacation.
I understand.
That's it. So if you can come to terms with each other, fine. And if what you're doing is being very angry with each other, then I can't do anything about that. And then, anyway, you owe them $2,200. That includes some of the phone bills, some of the loans. I wish I got smarter and started keeping track of what my kids owe me. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step
I
out.
hope they think about what she said about the grandchildren.
If it was a good thing for them to be there, then I would let them see her, and it's not. It's not about a game, about being mad. I wouldn't do that to my kids.
They won't let me see my grandsons. They're two beautiful little boys. I don't know why they're doing this.
I just want her out of my life.
Want her to leave us.
Suing her ex-roommate, 45-year-old hairstylist Kathleen Boyd, for the return of her belongings. Kathleen is countersuing for unpaid rent, storage fees, and damage to her home.
According to your complaint, there came a time when you and your son moved into her home. When did you move in with her?
In September of the year 2000.
And then it is your claim that she threw you out of the house, had you thrown out of the house sometime in January of 2001, under circumstances that prevented you for some reason from obtaining all of your property. The defendant says that you really abandoned that property. You did, in fact, show up at her house some 8.5 months later and loaded up a couple of truckloads of stuff. She wants to be reimbursed for rent that she says you never paid her, and for what she believes would be a fair storage fee for storing the stuff that she did, in fact, store over that 8.5-month period. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. You moved in September of 2000. Under what circumstances did you leave in January of 2001?
She had me removed by 2 undercover police officers And 5 days later, I was given an order of protection saying I could not go back to her home.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
She was removed by the sheriff's detectives because she had used my car to commit 2 felonies.
When was that?
On December 8th, she took my car and drove to the home of an ex-boyfriend of hers and broke in.
How do you know that?
She told me she was going to do it because he had money, and she owed me money for rent, and she was going to try to pay me with money that he had stored in a beer ball.
How do you know she did in fact commit that burglary?
When I got up in the morning, my car was gone. I said to myself, oh no, Lori never got up that and took off with my car before in the morning. Sure enough, she showed up and she was dragging bags full of money, change.
Change.
And
Did you have a discussion with her about the change?
she said she was going to take it to the bank and cash it in.
Now, did there come a time that the police came to your house?
Yes, on January 11th. And they wanted to question me about the incident in December. They told me I wasn't in any trouble. She had been spotted in the car that morning on her own without
Did you show them
me
where
there.
the change was stored, or had the change already been cashed?
Change had already been cashed.
Did she
Your
give you
Honor.
the money from the change?
She gave me some money from the change.
And the money that she gave you from the change was for money that she owed you from rent?
Rent and all sorts of different things.
How much did she give you?
$200.
Were you arrested for burglary on the 11th of January?
Yes, Your Honor, I
What's
was.
the disposition of that case?
All charges have been dropped, and I have a conditional discharge for a year. The thing
Well, no, all
was,
charges weren't dropped if you have a
Oh,
conditional
I'm sorry.
discharge.
I'm sorry. The thing was is I did use Kathleen's car. Kathleen asked me to do this. I gave her all of the money, and there was some jewelry that I did take from there that Kathleen wanted to keep. I was upset because it was my boyfriend's gifts to another woman, and
Okay.
he has forgiven me, and everything's over with.
Okay. And it was at that time that you got a protective order, is that right?
Yes, because
I'd like to see a copy of the protective order. This protective order doesn't say anything about you being able to leave your property at her house for 8.5 months.
Oh, I realize that, Your Honor. I
Okay,
tried
I'm
for
just telling you.
weeks. I tried for months for a third party to get a hold of her to get my belongings, and she would not allow it. This is my brother-in-law-to-be, Patrick O'Hearn. He called her. He wrote her letters. She said yes, he could go get my belongings, and then she changed her mind. She would call him
Your Honor.
day and night.
she's lying.
Let's step up here.
blatant
Patrick.
lying.
Just a second. When did you make telephone calls to the defendant in order to try to obtain her property? When was the first telephone call you made to her?
It was about the middle of July. I was
July
Yes,
was the first time you contacted her.
yes.
She is now required to keep your property for 6 months.
I realize that,
Why
Your
didn't
Honor.
you go to court in February for the return of your property?
I did not know that that was an option.
Your Honor.
When I was given the order of protection, the judge's secretary said, Lori, as soon as you get a place to live, Kathleen will give you your belongings and she will keep them safe.
Your Honor.
The judge's secretary, Rita, told you, don't worry, as soon as you find a place to live, she'll give you back your property.
When they issued the order
That's
of
not an
protection.
agreement with the defendant. When did you finally find a place to live?
I was in a shelter for about 2 months.
Yes.
April, beginning of April.
Well,
That's
what
when
effort
his
did
brother
you...
was trying to make phone calls with her.
No, he didn't start calling till the summertime,
No,
6 months
his
later.
brother, my
I don't-
fiance.
No.
Just a minute.
Pat was the
person's
first
not,
one that
Shh.
called. Excuse
That
me.
person's not here. In any event, Ms. Trudell, she is under absolutely no obligation to safeguard your property for 6 months or 8 months while you find a place to live, and that is irrespective of what Ms. Rita had to say. Ms. Rita cannot make a contract with her, and you had no agreement with her. You did, in fact, get some of your stuff back. Is that right?
Mostly ruined. Yes, Your Honor.
Well, she is not responsible for storing your property. If you had an order of protection that was issued, then what you do is, the very next day, you go into small claims court and you sue her for the property. But you don't wait 9 months to do that.
I wanted to wait, Your Honor, until this case was closed, and the judge told me I could go get my belongings.
You mean until the burglary case was closed? That may be, but she is not a party to that. Now I'll see
understand
what
that.
piece of paper. You may have a piece of paper that sheds some
Yes,
additional light on
I
it.
did have her served by the Sheriff's Department.
Can I see the paper? Yep, sure. Well, she wrote you this letter, and it was notarized in March, and it was served on you, and she tells you to come and get your stuff.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you didn't.
That was when the third party, because I couldn't contact her directly because of the order of protection, that was when my fiancé, the third party,
He's
first
not
called
here.
He
her.
wasn't
He's-
in the picture at
He's
that
not
point,
here.
Your Honor.
He's not here.
No,
Mr. Dell,
that is not
whatever
true.
stuff that you got,
You're
I would
lying.
suggest you be happy with it because that's all you're going to get from the defendant. You can't make an arrangement with a third party, a judge's secretary, who says, I never heard of that. Just go, as soon as you find a nice place to live, you can go and get your
She
property
told me
back,
she
and she's
would
going to
keep my
store it.
belongings safe.
Well, then I would sue her. Who said they would keep your belongings safe? Rita?
Rita told me Kathleen
Rita
told her that
Rita
she
said
would
she would keep your belongings safe? Rita
Yes.
said that to you?
Yes.
So sue Rita. Sue Rita. It's ridiculous. Now I'm going to get to your claim of rent, storage fees, and damage to the home, Miss Boyd. And let me explain to you why you're going to get nothing. Because based upon your own testimony, you were in receipt of stolen property. Based on your testimony, you knew where she got this change from. You knew she had stolen it from somebody else's home. And I'm quite frankly astonished that the police didn't pursue that matter. But that's up to the police. In any event, you got whatever money you're going to get. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She hit me.
I never did. She is a pathological liar.
She's an active alcoholic. She would beat me up.
She lied to my ex-husband, told him that I was abusing my daughter.
She was drunk a lot.
It's unbelievable.
Cindy Hayden and her son, 16-year-old Anthony Kreppel, are suing Cindy's brother, Rick Hayden, his girlfriend, Lila Kennedy, and Lila's son, 16-year-old Nicholas Lyons. Cindy says during a road trip, Nicholas assaulted her son.
All right, let's deal with this in short order if we can. Miss Hayden, the defendant is your brother, Mr. Hayden.
Yes.
Co-defendant is a friend of yours, or was a friend of yours,
Yes.
Miss Kennedy. And according to your complaint, you wanted to bring Miss Kennedy to meet your brother.
Correct.
And you arranged to go with your children and Miss Kennedy's children to where your brother lives, which was some distance away in another state,
Yes.
on sort of a road trip / vacation, whatever. So far correct?
Correct.
And you say that while there, your son and the defendant's son got into some sort of an altercation, and your son was assaulted.
Yes.
Miss Kennedy said she's not taking you back. You're not all going back in the same car. Make your own arrangements to get home.
Correct.
So you are suing for two things. For the expenses that you had to get home,
Correct.
and you are suing them also on behalf of your son for whatever injuries he sustained as a result of this altercation with the defendant's son.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. What makes you think they're responsible to provide transportation for you home after this argument that got physical with the two boys?
For the simple fact, when we left on this trip, it was a trip paid for there and back.
By whom?
By my brother Rick. He had sent me money for gas to get there and sent Miss Kennedy money before we left to get home on.
I paid for the trip, Your Honor, but she spent her share of the money on marijuana before she
I don't care
made
whether
her
she
trip.
spent her share on marijuana. It doesn't make any difference. He sent gas money.
No.
He sent gas money. You're not entitled to any money for your return trip. Forget that.
Okay.
Now tell me about the fight that happened between your son and the defendant, Miss Kennedy's son.
Lila and I was arguing over the money situation, that I had paid for a haircut. She said I didn't. It was minute. The next thing I know, Lila grabbed me in a headlock. As I was in my headlock and I was looking over, I seen that in the doorway there was my brother, Rick, my son, and also Nick Lyons. Well, my brother Rick had my son held by both of his arms. He was behind him and had him held by both of his arms, while Nick Lyons was punching my son in the chest with his fist.
So you called the police?
Yes.
What kind of injuries did you have, young man?
Well, I got a knot on my chest. It caused a bunch of bruising, and they said that this knot will probably be here for about a year or so.
A knot?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to tell me your version of what happened that day. Why don't you tell me what happened?
All the yelling and everything was going on, and Tony, he went after my mom, and I was defending my mom, basically.
Was she holding this lady?
No, that didn't happen until me and her son got into it, and I had him on the floor holding him down, and then she jumped on my back, threw me in a headlock herself, and had me to the point where I couldn't breathe, and I was turning purple in the face, and she grabbed her off of me, and that happened, and she had her back up against the wall, and me and Tony continued at it.
Did he hit you at all?
Not that I can remember.
But you hit him?
Yeah.
How many times?
Once in the face, and that was it, and I kneed him in the chest.
It was pretty
Once
much
in
a
the face.
wrestling match.
What?
It was pretty much just a wrestling match, and there was nobody holding anybody except Lila holding Cindy, because Cindy, after they ended up on a wrestling match on the floor, Cindy jumps on his back, clawing him at the face, choking him, screaming and yelling and calling him dirty names.
You mean over haircut money?
She wanted to go home. The whole arrangement was that Cindy called. I hadn't talked to her for years because she's been a parasite in the family for years. She's done this to everybody in the family. Every time she goes somewhere, she turns it into a big melee mess. So I thought, well, give her one more chance. She's your sister. You know, it's Thanksgiving. Bring her down here, see if she's changed. Well, she changed all right.
Okay. She wanted to go home.
After she started threatening Lila's life because Lila wouldn't take her home when she wanted to go because she ran out of her drugs. And she wouldn't leave it alone. Every time I would leave the room, she would go back in there. And the last time, when I finally got fed up, she told Lila, just wait till I get you home if you make it that far. So then Tony attacks Lila and starts screaming and went after Lila. I tried to separate
Does that sound
them.
right to you?
Actually, I was telling Lila that it was true. My mom paid for the haircut that Nick had.
So you were arguing with Lila?
Yeah, and then Nick came up
Loud?
behind me. Yeah, we were arguing pretty loud.
Loud? You were yelling at her?
Yeah, she was yelling at me and yelling at my mom.
How old are you?
16.
How old is she? Older. She's a mother. She has a child your age. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what were you doing yelling at her?
I was defending my mom.
Your mother looks like she can defend herself. Your lawsuit's dismissed. You had a fight, you had an argument, you were all involved with it. It got physical, which is outrageous for the adults to become involved with a physical argument. Now you want to be compensated for that, plus the ride home? You're dreaming. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's unfortunate that it's happened, but it'll never happen again. She'll never be back.
The only one that had drugs on that trip was Lila and her son.
I think she could use some help.
Lila's whole life centers on Lila and nobody else.
She
Keck is suing her daughter's friend, 19-year-old receptionist Amanda Soleil, for causing her car to be towed and impounded.
Miss Keck, the defendant was living with your family.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
I assume she was a friend of your daughter's?
Yes.
You allowed her to use one of your cars. It was an older car. She had run into some transportation problems. She relied on her boyfriend, according to your complaint, for transportation. I assume this is boyfriend Jeff.
Yes.
Hi.
Right? And at some point, after a period of time, the car broke down.
Yes.
The car broke down at Jeff's place of employment.
Right.
The car was subsequently towed and impounded. You had considerable fees to get the car out of tow, and you believe that the defendant should be responsible for paying those fees.
Yes, I did.
She says the car was a piece of junk, basically.
I don't have a problem with that.
When did she come to live with your family?
I think it was in May, either early or latter part.
Why?
I understand that she and her mother weren't getting along, and her mother had asked her, you know, just go on and live somewhere else.
What would make you take her into your house?
She's my daughter's friend and had been since senior in high school. They're both in college now. And she'd been over to the house and dinners and, you know, proms and all that. So we were all good friends.
Did you charge her any rent?
No.
When did you give her the car to use?
Maybe early August.
Tell me about that.
She and Jeff were in a traffic accident which totaled his truck. So, you know, after they came over and they were at dinner at our house, I think, talking about things, and I said, well, how are you going to get around? And so we just decided, well, shoot, we've got this Mazda, we'll let her use it.
Now, You tell me what happened with the car and when.
After she gave it to use it, it was September 6th, and I was dropping Jeff off at work.
So we'd used it for a while. You
Yeah,
used it for about a month.
For about a month, yes. And I dropped him off at work that morning, and as I was saying goodbye, it just died, and which is normal because the whole time I used it, it would stop at stoplights, just like she said, and this time it just died. I couldn't get it to click over or anything, so we pushed it back into a parking spot, and I said to him, well, I'm going to have a car anyway, so we might as well go buy a car now. So he used a company truck, took me home. I called in sick to work, and then I went to buy a car. And after I bought the car, I came home that day. It was about 4 o'clock, and I told Barbara, I said, Barbara, come look at what I bought. So I came out to the driveway, and I said, I bought a car, and she goes, well, what prompted you to do this? And I said, well, your car broke down today on the way taking Jeff to work. And she said, oh, I said, well, I left it at Jeff's work. And then she said that she would talk to her husband, Bernard, about it, and they would discuss what we would do about it when he comes home the next day.
I'm not ready for you yet.
Oh, okay.
And did you have another discussion with Barbara?
During the period of the next week, it just kind of came up off and on. Nobody really said anything. I worked full-time, and we never sat down and totally discussed it.
Well, instead of going and buying a new truck that day, why didn't you call a tow truck and have the car towed back home?
Like, I've never had a car towed on me before, and I really didn't know what to do.
Well, you knew enough to go and buy a car. You have to fill out forms, you have to take it to be registered, you have to go to motor vehicles, you have to get insurance, right? And to get a car towed, you have to pick up the phone and look in the yellow pages and find towing and call and say, come pick up the car, and would you please bring it back to my residence? Now, which one seems harder to you?
Probably buying the car.
Right. And the towing fees were $455.
Right.
Well, you explained to me, young lady, why you don't think you are responsible for that.
Well, I feel that because I feel because the car was in her name, and the day that it broke down, I did come home and I did let her know.
After you bought a new car?
Yeah. Well, at the time, that seemed like the right thing to do to me.
No, it seemed like the selfish thing to do.
Buying the car was my idea.
Excuse me?
Buying the car was my idea. I had the money saved up, and I just said, you know.
Is anybody talking to him? Are you still living at her house?
No.
You lived there for how long?
From June until early September.
3 months she didn't charge you any rent?
Right.
Not $50 a month, not $100 a month. I assume you ate breakfast there. You said you had some dinners there. Jeff came over and ate there. Did she charge you when Jeff came over and ate dinner?
No, she didn't.
Nice lady. And let you have a car. There's no issue. Where's the issue? Why are we here? It was your responsibility to bring the car home and say, now I've fulfilled my responsibility. It was given to me in the driveway. I've returned it to the driveway. You got it? And if he thinks that that's wrong, oh, I'm dying to hear from him.
You're dying. Okay.
Stand up!
She said, okay, when she gave us that car, it breaks down at stoplights. If you crash it, I don't care. Just don't get it stolen. Insurance doesn't cover that. If it breaks down, leave it. If it does this, does that, leave it. I don't care. The car's garbage. It's an 83 or 86, doesn't matter. It's got over 200,000
Sit down. This lady was very nice to you. Mr. Responsibility over here doesn't get it together as much as he should. You know, doesn't understand that as an adult you have certain responsibilities. You should understand that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $485. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think they probably should have had it towed back to the house. Well, it didn't go the way I planned.
It shouldn't say that you... 18-year-old cook Michael Hubbard is suing his father, 47-year-old electrician Ray Hubbard, for stealing money from his bank account. Ray says he was entitled to it.
Order. All rise. Yes, this is case number 477 on the calendar in the matter of Hubbard versus Hubbard. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
You're Michael.
Yes.
Michael, the defendant is your father, and according to your complaint, when you were 16 or 17, you had a job.
Yes.
Or 2 jobs.
2, yes.
And you and your dad opened a bank account and deposited your money in the account. The money was all your money. You needed his signature on the account because you were a minor.
Yes.
And then there was some sort of a dispute involving your father and your mother, and they're divorced?
Separated.
And your father withdrew all the money from your account.
All of it but $2.51.
And how much money did you have in the account?
Before he withdrew it, I had $1,527.51.
Why did you withdraw your son's money?
$775 I drew out for room and board when he stayed with me for 2 months.
All right, so let's start with the $775 that you withdrew for room and board.
Yes.
When did he live with you?
From June 20th until August 20th.
And how old was your son in June of 2001?
17.
When did he turn 18?
December 11th.
You can't charge him for room and board. You're his father. You're responsible for him.
Ma'am, he was living with his mother at the time, and he came to, with her agreement, came to live with me so he could work.
Mm-hmm.
Before June, I was paying child support.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came to live with me, I just figured that I was entitled to the child support back.
You figured wrong. You may be entitled to the child support back, but not from him.
When this all started out, I acknowledged to him that I was going to do this, and he had
I don't care what you acknowledge to him. And even if he agreed that he'd pay you room and board, even if he agreed, which he didn't, you can't hold a minor to a contract. I mean, I never heard of something so ridiculous in my life. Your son worked, he put money in the bank, he was saving for, I don't know, college, future, whatever. You decided later to withdraw money because you figured he owed you for room and board. Outrageous! What's next? What's next? $775.
Yes.
Room and board. What else did you take out?
Me and his mother had a dispute on child support that I owed. We went to court about that. And, you know, in order to get a lawyer, I told him I was going to take some money out to pay for the lawyer. That was because of another situation that was going on.
What?
His grades in school, that I was trying to get custody back for him.
Yes.
To make him do better in school.
So?
And I had to get a lawyer in order to do that.
So? You wanted him to pay for the lawyer so that you could get custody of him?
No, I did not want him to pay for the lawyer.
Well, but he did. That's what you just told me. You took money out of his account so that you could pay for a lawyer to get custody of him. Isn't that what you just told me?
Yes, I did.
Well, am I correct? I mean, when you cut through all the baloney, that's what it was.
But I told him I was going to do this in order to file for custody for him.
Well,
and when I told him that, he had no problem with it.
What do you mean he had no problem with it?
He didn't disagree or agree.
Mr. Hubbard, what do you do for a living?
I'm an electrician, ma'am.
Well, let me give you the facts of life, Mr. Hubbard. The facts of life are parents support their children and provide for necessaries for their children until their children reach the age of majority. Then, if they're really lucky, the children will take care of themselves. Only if they're really lucky. Most parents take care of their children even after they've reached their majority. They pay for college, they pay for books, they pay for clothes, they pay for trips, they pay for medical, they pay for dental, they pay for orthodontia, they pay for cars, they pay for gas, they pay for dating. When they're 19 and 20 and 21 and 22, and sometimes even until they're 30. You, on the other hand, want your child to pay for himself, for his room and board, as well as for a lawyer for you. Hello? Michael, your father is misguided. You're entitled to your money back, Michael. Now, I assume at this point you and your father aren't getting along too well.
No.
And I assume that it will take some time for that to work itself out, if it ever does. Maybe he understands that he did the wrong thing. Maybe.
May I say something else, you mean?
Yeah, sure.
I got custody of him on December 14th, 99. His grades were falling bad. When I finally got custody of him, I made him do his homework, and his grades came up. And then his mother 9 months later, filed for custody back of him because I was being too hard on him. I was making him do his homework. I was making him tell me where he was all this time, anytime he was out. Well, that's too hard on him as far as she's concerned. So she got custody back of him, and I have his report cards here showing that when he was with me, he was doing better, and now that he's with her, he's completely failing.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Michael Hubbard says his father, Ray Hubbard, stole money from his bank account. Ray says he needed the money.
Your job as a parent is to do what is best for your child, to look into...
That's what I was trying to do. I had his interest in heart all the time.
Fine. Let us say I absolutely agree that you felt as if he needed a stronger hand in order to do his work so that he could do well in school, so that he could move on. You felt as if you had to, as a parent, fight for custody so that he would do better. Is that fair? Is that a fair statement, sir?
No, sir. No, ma'am, that's not what I was doing.
I thought that's what you were doing.
Well, I am, but as far as his mother is concerned, she won't let him grow up.
It doesn't make any difference. Well, you're not listening to me, sir. I said you felt as if you had to do what you did in pursuing custody of him because you felt as if it was in his best interest.
Yes, I still do.
And you still do?
Yes.
Good. He doesn't pay for that. You pay for that. That's a necessary, not for him. That's a legal necessary for you. You as a parent are supposed to do the right thing. You felt in your heart the right thing was that he lived with you. You would be a better parent for him at this stage in his life. Good for you. You pay for it.
I understand that.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,527.51. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
A parent should be more responsible.
It was in the best interest of the child.
A minor shouldn't have to pay for room and board.
I'm going to keep fighting it.
Dina Mason is suing her ex-boyfriend, crane operator Jeff Campbell, for an unpaid loan to buy a truck. Jeff says it was a gift because Dina didn't like his old truck.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 497 on the calendar in the matter of Mason versus Campbell. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Mason, how old are you?
I'm 39 years old.
You have children?
3.
How old are they?
12, 13, and 15.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an advertising representative.
According to your complaint, in 2001, you loaned Mr. Campbell, who you were dating, $4,000 to put down as a down payment on a truck.
Yes, I did. Mr. Campbell didn't have a vehicle.
No, listen to me. I didn't ask you a question yet.
I'm sorry.
And the understanding was that if you loaned him the down payment, he would take care of the rest of the payments, and he would pay you back this $4,000. Mr. Campbell's defense to this action is that it was a gift. Is that right, sir?
That's right, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's do the facts that we know. She put down $4,000 on a truck that was purchased in your name. Is that right?
That's right.
And you took out a car loan for the rest.
That's right.
Now I want you to convince me that this was a gift.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm ready.
Well, I was perfectly happy with the vehicle that I had. She told me that she would like for me to have a nicer truck, and she did not like my truck being parked in front of her house because it was a ranch truck. There was nothing wrong with it. It was an older truck, but I was perfectly fine with it, and it was in good shape. And one day she come home and she said, I got an advance on my check. Let's go look for a truck. So we went and looked for a truck.
Okay, so she said to you, I want to go look for a truck. And what did you say to her?
I said, that's fine. So we went and looked. And it just happened to be that day we found one. And I told her it was too much because we already found out the bank would only loan me $15,000.
When did you find that out?
Like 2 or 3 days before, I believe.
Well, what were you even checking into that for, sir, if you didn't want a new truck?
Because she had mentioned it prior to this.
What do you mean she had mentioned it prior to this?
She just wanted me to have a nicer truck. And I said, I don't even think I can get approved for the loan.
You said, I don't even think that I can get approved for the loan, but I'm going to check and find out. And then you called to see.
Yeah, she asked me to go down there.
So it wasn't that she just came home one day and said to you, I want to go buy you a truck. This is a discussion that you had had with her previously.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you actually went so far as to call up to find out how much money you could get on a loan.
Yeah, to check my credit, see how bad
Right.
it was.
Keep going.
And we went and looked that evening, and we found a truck, and I thought it was too much.
Look at me.
I thought it was too much. And so She was good with bargaining with people, and she knew the owner. So we went and we talked to them. She got the truck down to what she thought was reasonable.
But what do you think? Don't you have a brain?
Yes.
And what did you
Yes.
think?
I thought it was still a little too high.
Is that what you told her?
Yes.
So you said it's too much.
It's too much.
Too much. Can't do it.
That's right.
That's what you said.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we signed the paperwork. I signed the paperwork. She got it to where she
Well,
thought.
why would you sign the paperwork if you said no, it's too much?
Because she said she was going to put the down on it. And I said, are you sure that's what you want to do? And she goes, yes, it's no problem. So that's what we did.
So that was in May of 2001.
2001.
What happened after that? How long did you stay together after that?
We stayed together approximately a year.
You lived together?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
No.
When did you stop living together?
We stopped living together approximately August of 2001.
Does that sound right, sir?
It could be. I'm not very good with dates, Your Honor.
Well, try years.
I'm sorry.
Don't get sorry. Try to get intelligent. May 2001 is when you bought the truck.
Yes.
How much after that did you and the plaintiff separate?
Well, we separated a few times in between. We were off and on, off and on, off and on.
When was the last time that you actually lived together, I assume, in her home?
It had been last year in, I'd say, June.
Is that right?
No, ma'am.
Has he stayed in your house since August of 2001?
He came and stayed at my house in December of 2001 for about 4 days.
Why?
I felt sorry for him because his dad had kicked him out.
Is he a drinker?
No.
Does he use drugs?
No.
Why did his dad kick him out?
They live in an old trailer in
I don't care if they live in an old
Wasco,
trailer.
and
What?
they just always got in fights and arguments.
Yeah.
And he came and stayed at my house, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't have you here. I was only going to let him stay for a couple days. And
You
it
know, there
looked
was
like
some
he
other
getting
trouble
very
with him, too, was there not, Miss Mason, that you seem to allude to in your complaint, people looking for him for money?
Yes.
When was that?
It was in September of 2001. The first case was he owed some money for a horse, and I had given him the money already. It was a horse for my daughter, and I wasn't aware that he hadn't paid the man. And he came into my house hostile, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know where Jeff is at. And I own a 30-foot camping trailer at Aljo with 2 pop-outs, and the guy did not believe me that it was mine. And so I had to literally pull out my paperwork of the lease and show it to him that it was not Jeff's, because he wanted to put a lien against it. Then we had a girl come to the door. She threatened to tear my vehicle apart and repossess anything that I had, because he told her it was his home, his vehicles, and he felt sorry for me and my children, so he was letting us stay there. And that's how he got people to let him live in their homes.
You mean, and after this, you let him come back to your house in December? Why?
I felt sorry for him.
He already left you holding the bag for $4,000. Why would you feel sorry for him?
I'm just a nice person.
Who are you?
His ex-girlfriend. Part of this is true and part of it's not true. Jeff and I got together early November of 2001. We were together for approximately a month. Dina came to my home and started calling my home, harassing him, calling him, wanting him back.
Wanting him back or wanting her money?
Wanting him back. She did not want money. She never brought up anything about money for the longest time.
Did you speak to her?
Yes, I did.
Well, tell me about the conversation you had with her in November of 2001.
That they were still together. He was living with her. She wanted to know who I was, what was going on between us. And I
Was
said,
he living at your house?
Yes, he was, ma'am.
How much rent was he giving you?
Nothing.
Where did you meet him?
I met him through a friend. We knew quite a few people that were mutual friends.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a cashier.
What does he do for a living?
He's works in the oil fields.
Doing what?
Tearing down the big pumping units.
How often does he do that?
Well, Monday through Friday.
Then what does he do with his money?
He spends it.
On what?
Dirt bikes.
What else?
Clothing, dirt bikes. We eat out.
What else?
That's about it.
Really? I doubt that. I have a good nose for that. Somebody who works construction makes a lot of money. And unless he's supporting a whole gaggle of children, there are only a few things that you get addicted to that prevent you from providing for your own sustenance, like rent and food and clothing and cars and other things. One of them's gambling. I assume he's not a gambler, is that right?
No.
And then there are a couple of other things that you can become addicted to that also take a lot of money.
Ma'am, his dirt bike takes a lot of money.
How much did he pay for the dirt bike?
I don't know how much he paid for the dirt bike. He had it before we got together.
When you say it takes a lot of money, how much is a lot of money?
Well, he's quite frequent with blowing them up, and he spent, I know, of at least $1,000 or more at a time rebuilding it.
What do you mean he blows them up? What does that mean?
He rides them hard and blows the motors up.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
9 and 4.
Why would you want them around somebody who has a fried brain?
Because I don't believe that he has a fried brain.
He does. He does. He's an amoral person who has a fried brain because he's over 25 years old. He sucks off women, vulnerable women with children who are really trying to, they're living from hand to mouth because it doesn't look to me as if you're a trust fund child. Right? So he's sucking off you. He sucked off her. Whenever he gets some money, he blows it on things for himself, and then he doesn't treat those things with any kind of respect. According to you, he'll spend $1,000 on a dirt bike, and he rides it hard and blows up the motor. Well, that's something that somebody might do if they were 15, but not somebody who's in their mid-30s, unless they get women to take care of them and support them. Then he can take all the money he gets from his construction and oil stuff and do with it whatever he wants. Whatever toys he wants to play with, and whatever things that he needs to make him feel good. So if you want to expose your children to a person with that kind of character, that's your problem. That doesn't make you very smart. Do you understand?
Yes.
She wasn't very smart. She got snookered for $4,000. But you're not going to get it back because you got snookered for it. You gave it to him. You didn't loan him this money. He said he wanted it, and you said, I'm going to give it to you. You want to know how I know that? Because if in December of 2001 somebody who had snookered me out of $4,000 and made a fool out of me came to my house and said, I need a place to stay, I would have called the police and said, I have somebody trying to get into my house. Get him away from here.
Ma'am.
That's why. Yes.
On that, as far as that goes, Dina called my cell phone and begged him to come back to her. He was living with me at the time.
Listen, my dear, I've been around a little longer than you have. My eyesight isn't so good. I look at him and I see nothing that I would wipe my feet on. Do you understand?
Yes.
So the fact that the two of you seem to be enthralled with him, maybe he has some hidden attribute that certainly I don't see, You want him? That's your business. There was no loan. You bought him a truck. Get over it. Your case is dismissed.
Thanks, Doc.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was hoping he wouldn't have to put it down.
She just thought she had to have a nicer vehicle in front of her house. Well, she had one for a while. Now she don't.
He said he would give it back to me in a couple days. It never happened.
Just got tired of her and the crap.
He got so much self-confidence having the vehicle, he ended up with about 4 girlfriends to go with it.
I'd rather be with my bikes. I'm an adrenaline junkie.
Date someone who...
Her ex-boyfriend, 18-year-old retail salesperson Thomas Enos, for totaling her car. Thomas says Danielle gave him permission to drive the vehicle.
Order. All rise. Youngsters case number 568 on the calendar in the matter of Donago versus Enos. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Nago, the defendant is a former boyfriend of yours, and according to your complaint, he crashed your car and totaled it. He had taken it, according to you, without permission. Mr. Enos says nothing could be farther from the truth. He had your permission to take the car. He was, and as a matter of fact, according to your answer, you were running an errand with her car. Unfortunately, you had an accident, and an accident is an accident. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of car was this?
A 93 Cavalier Z24.
When did this accident take place?
August 10th.
Where were you?
At my father's house.
And how did he get the car?
Well, he asked me if he could use the car to go to the store to get a pack of cigarettes. And I was outside with my father, and I said no, not to take my car. And he went in the house, he took my keys, he asked my sister to go to the store with him, but Jacob went to the store with him instead, and like 15 minutes later, the cops had came to the house.
What time of day or evening was this?
It had to be 11, because the cops came to the house like 15 minutes after.
It was just you and your father outside?
There was like his cousins and a couple people that he knew. So.
Was this a party?
No, It was not.
Just a get-together?
I was there, and one of his friends had dropped him off at my house.
What time had one of his friends dropped him off at your house?
I'd say like 15 minutes before he took my car, because I didn't see him all day.
What was the friend's name who dropped him off?
Dan.
Where had you been earlier that evening with Dan?
I was just out doing errands and things like that, hanging out.
With Dan?
Yes.
And you got to her house at about what time?
I got to her house pretty early, I'd say like 8, 9 o'clock.
She says it was later than that. And what time did you take the car?
Around 12:30, ma'am.
And where was Dan, the person who had dropped you off?
He was there. We were all there. It was more like we were having a small party.
All right, now you tell me, you got the keys to her car.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that she gave you the keys.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
I asked her for them, and she gave them to me, ma'am.
How did that happen precisely? She's outside,
Mm-hmm.
and you said?
I said, can I use the car keys to go get cigarettes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And?
And she said, yeah, she gave them to me.
Okay. So she went back inside, or did you go get the car keys?
No, she got them for me.
I'm looking at your answer,
Uh-huh.
Mr. Enos. And let me read to you from your answer. You said, we ran out of cigarettes, and they asked if I would go and pick some up.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it can't be both, Mr. Enos. It has to be either you ran out of cigarettes and asked to borrow the car, or they said to you, would you go and do an errand for us and pick up cigarettes?
No, ma'am. That's how it happened, like I just said. I didn't write the report personally, so it might have been mistyped.
Show this to him and ask him if it's his signature, please.
It is my signature. Yes,
Well, you
ma'am.
read, don't you?
Yes.
You don't sign anything before you read it, right?
Right.
Well, and I assume you read it. It's not a fantasy, it's what you wrote. So what you're telling me is that the things that you wrote in your answer are untrue.
No.
Is that right?
No.
They have to be either true or untrue. You mean you want me to try to pick out what's true and what's not true?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you get into the car with your friend and you're going to buy cigarettes for yourself, which means that you were not acting as an agent for anybody else. You were doing this yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened, sir?
Well, we were driving towards the Pride that was down the street from our house, but I was apparently going a little fast, and when I tried to slow down, the streets were slippery, so the back end of the car started to shake, and it went out of control after that.
Yes.
And we crashed.
Yes.
I started to walk back to our house after that, after I made sure everybody was all right and everything.
What do you mean everybody was all right?
Well, me and Jacob.
Okay.
And I was walking back to our house to tell her what happened, and the police picked me up on my way there.
Why did the police pick you up?
For crashing the car. They wanted to know what happened.
Well, then they put you in jail.
Mm-hmm.
That usually doesn't happen if you're going to look for help. What were you in jail for, sir?
I had some drugs on me. I was caught with possession.
You did? What kind of drugs did you have?
I had marijuana and ecstasy.
And ecstasy?
Yeah.
Were you carrying it? What do you want?
I have the police report if you would like it.
Oh, no, I'll look at the police report in a minute. Having a really interesting time here. Now, you were caught with marijuana and ecstasy.
Mm.
Had you used any of that before you got behind the wheel of the car?
Oh, yeah, not the ecstasy, but I was pretty intoxicated. Like I said, we were all partying at her father's house.
Oh. Well, then, Mr. Enos, this is what I'd like you to explain to me, sir. We now come to the point where you wanted cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
You asked if you could use the car, and let me assume for the moment that she said, okay, you can take the car keys. You wanted the cigarettes. You were under the influence of drugs. You were traveling too fast, which caused the car to go out of control in wet weather.
Mm-hmm.
You totaled the car. So my question to you, sir, is why should you not pay for the car?
Well, ma'am, thing is, there was never an agreement, like she said, on her.
There doesn't have to be an agreement.
Right.
Forget agreement. Forget agreement. We're not talking agreement here. You took the car. You were under the influence of drugs. You traveled too fast. You totaled the car, but somebody else should pay for it.
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, then, why should you not pay for the car?
Because I wasn't in the right state of mind, and if she would have said no, like she really said in the report, and really enforced it, then that would have never happened.
Is this your mother?
Yes.
May I? Are you sure you want to defend that position,
No,
madam?
I don't want to defend his last statement. Your Honor, I'm not saying that my son is not responsible and shouldn't be held responsible. He should be.
Great.
Okay, my problem is they all had something to do with this. You know, she let him take the car. He let him drink in his house. Nobody called me till the next evening. They bailed him out of jail without informing me. Her mother actually called me and told me that my son had gotten arrested and he was at her house. That Saturday evening, I went and picked my son up. I asked my son if he had a problem with drugs. He said yes. I brought him into a meeting for narcotics and enrolled him the very next day. Shortly after he went into the rehab center, within a few months, they had broken up, which was fine with me. I was pleased. They'd been together for 5 months. Within that 5 months, he had gotten himself in numerous amounts of trouble. I'm not saying that's her fault, but they were a bad combination.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Danielle Dernego claims ex-boyfriend Thomas Enos drove her car without permission and totaled it. Thomas says after a night of partying, he wasn't in the right state of mind.
Go ahead.
Since then, my son has done fine. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be held accountable. He should be.
Good.
But everybody should be.
No. He got behind the wheel of a car while under the influence of a substance that impaired his judgment because he wanted to go to the store for himself, which is not what he said in his answer, but that's what happened. He was going too fast. He destroyed property that wasn't his, and he has to be responsible. The fact that they may not have been a good combination and they were drinking beer at their house, and what does that have to do with ecstasy? What does that have to do with being in possession of ecstasy? I mean, that he had to buy someplace else. Exactly. He had to buy the marijuana someplace else. It has nothing to do with it. Now, he may have had some beer and some marijuana, and I don't know whether he was waiting for later to take the ecstasy. Who knows? Right. Whatever. He has to pay for this car.
I agree.
Now, the car did not have collision. Is that right?
Nope. And the other thing, Your Honor, I don't know if this really makes a difference. I don't know that the car was worth $3,500.
May not be. She's going to have to prove that to me. When did you buy the car?
I bought it on 3/22/01.
Do you have the bill of sale?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? She bought the car for $3,100. You paid cash for it?
Yes, I did.
She had told me at one point that her dad had bought that car, actually. So, and they work, and her father works in the car business. So I'm sure if they wanted to get a receipt, they could produce one.
It had 93,000 miles when you bought it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money for a car with 93,000 miles.
They didn't pay
a car that's
$3,100.
almost 10 years old. Who do you work for, sir?
Economy Motor Sales.
So you work for these people?
Yes, I do.
Paid top dollar for this car?
Yeah.
That's about the market value for that car right now.
Stand up, sir. Really, you have the blue book on the car for this year?
I don't have
with
a book with me.
93,000 miles and 94,000 miles?
That's about the value of the car right now, still.
But this is what you paid for it. Is that what you're
That's
testifying to?
Yeah.
Did you get any money at all for scrap or anything else for the car?
I had to pay $120, and I have the towing bill right here. I only had to pay $120, and the towing bill still to this day is a balance of $743.
For towing?
Yes. That's not true either. She sold the car to the place where
It
they
says it
towed
right on
the
there.
car.
It says I signed my bill of sales over.
Just a second. Notes signed over. So it was signed over.
Yeah. And I have all the damage that was done on my car on the police report because since I
The
didn't have
car
full
was
coverage.
totaled. And you're going to get back the $120 that you paid for the towing because you should have taken care of that. You should have taken care of that right away, sir. You should have tried to resolve this issue with her right away instead of trying to blame other
Your
people.
Honor, these people were living with me. It was not like they didn't have contact with each other after this. These people stayed in my house.
What difference does it make?
Well, if she wanted money, all she had to do was ask for it. I offered to pay them people numerous times.
You did.
Let me ask you this question. They bailed him out of jail.
Right.
They did, in fact, contact you.
No, not till the next evening.
They did, in fact, contact you.
Yes, they did.
Did you pay anything to bail him out of jail?
I didn't know about it till the next evening, so
Just
no, I
a
did
second.
not.
So you did not. How much did you pay to get him out of jail?
I have the check for $625 that I cashed the morning that I bailed him out. Plus, I threw in another $200, and his friend Angeli threw in the rest.
My son threw in $100, and my niece.
No,
put
he
money
did
in.
not.
Just a second.
Your niece did not.
Whatever. Listen to me. You paid. Other people have taken care of Miss Enos. I understand you think that you have a legitimate complaint against these people. But the truth of the matter is, you really don't. They went to bail him out of jail. They called you the very next day. According to him, it was 12:30.
Correct.
So that you were contacted by them the same day that they bailed him out of jail.
Correct.
So stop complaining, and you paid nothing. So I'm giving you $3,000 for the value of the car plus $120 that you paid to have it towed. $3,120. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it's ridiculous that you can allow children underage to drink at your house and party at your house and do it with them and not be held accountable for it.
She needs to clean her habit up. She needs to stop her drugs.
Is suing the mother of his child, 22-year-old homemaker Suhey Gonzalez, for having him falsely arrested for domestic violence. Suhey says Jason threatened their infant son with a knife.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Your Honor, this is case number 174 on the calendar in the matter of Lopez versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Lopez, you and the defendant have a child together. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your complaint that the defendant had you arrested on false charges of assault, domestic violence, and you want to be compensated for that. And in addition, you want a home entertainment center that you say was yours, that is in the defendant's home. The defendant says that the home entertainment center was a gift. You did, in fact, assault her, and she is counterclaiming for her injuries.
I don't have nothing. He took everything.
Defendant says the home entertainment center was a gift. Do you still have it?
No, he took everything.
She doesn't have it. And that you did, in fact, assault her. And her counterclaim is for the injuries that she suffered during the course of this assault, which occurred around Christmas time. Is that right?
Christmas Day.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lopez. Were you living with the defendant at the time that you were arrested?
I was moving out. I was in the moving out.
He was already a week out.
I'm going to get to you in a minute, but don't interrupt him. What do you mean you were in the process of moving out? What does that mean?
The day after Thanksgiving, we had a really big argument and we had broken up. So we made an agreement by no later than the first week of January that I had to have everything of mine moved out and be completely moved out. I was staying between there, like a few days if I babysitted my son, or I stood at my best friend's house or my mother's house.
So most of the time you weren't living there?
Yes.
All right. So tell me about Christmas Day. You came over to the house?
What happened was we agreed to meet up at my best friend's house. We picked up my son and her son, her other child, and we agreed to go back to her house, to her apartment, and open up the children's gifts together. And from there, when we arrived at the home, we opened the gifts. She asked me to stay a little bit longer while she took a shower so I could watch the children. I agreed. At that time, I received a phone call from my fiancé on my fiancé's cell phone, just before she went to the bathroom to take a shower. At that time, I was speaking to her. I explained to her what time I was going to be finished. I explained to her that she was going to take a shower and I was going to meet up with her right after. At that time, she began screaming, saying stuff that didn't need to be said over the phone for my fiancé to hear. So at that time, I said, why are you acting up? You know what, I'm not going to stay. I'm leaving. She began an argument. I tried to leave. I had my son in my arms with the cell phone. She wouldn't let me leave. So I said, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm leaving my son. I put my son down in the crib. At that time, I dropped the cell phone in the crib without knowledge when I put my son down. I tried to leave. She blocked the doorway. I kept on explaining to her, move, move, I want to leave. I'm not staying, I'm out. She didn't want to let me. So then I barged through. She had her arms spread out against the doorway, holding me, not letting me go. So when I barged through so I could leave, she scratched her arm. So I left. When I got outside, I went to go call my fiancé.
That is not
And when I got downstairs,
Ms. Gonzalez, I don't want to hear it's not true again. Do you understand?
No problem.
No, that's not an answer. The answer is yes, Your Honor, I understand. I will not interrupt again.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand. I will not interrupt again.
That's right. Go ahead.
So outside, I went to make an attempt to call my fiancé, and I noticed I didn't have the phone. So when I went back upstairs...
That was stupid.
Because the phone was upstairs.
That was stupid.
I went and I looked for the phone.
Say yes, that was stupid.
Yes, it was stupid. So I asked her if she had the cell phone.
You just gotten out of the house, you pushed her, she scratched her arm, according to you. You leave the cell phone and you go. You don't go back into a confrontational area, sir. That's stupid, Mr. Lopez.
Yes, Your
All
Honor.
right, so you go back upstairs. What happened when you went back upstairs?
When I got upstairs, I asked her, did she have the cell phone? She says, I don't have it. So as I looked through the house, I remembered I had it in my hand when I put my son down. When I looked into the crib, my son wasn't in the crib. I went and found my cell phone under the sheet. Again, I attempted to leave.
Again, she blocked my way. I said, just move, then move. At that time, she told me she had called the cops and I was going to be arrested. I said, well, I'm leaving. And outside the door, a lady, which I had never seen before in this building for the whole year I was living there, had my son. As I attempted to take my son from the lady, 2 female officers were coming upstairs.
What were you taking your son from the lady for?
I didn't know the lady. If I don't know the person, I don't want nobody I don't know having my son in my hands. I don't know what they'll do. So the 2 officers were downstairs. They came, and they brought us all into the apartment, me, her, and the 2 kids. While we were in the apartment, the officers explained because this domestic problem, they were going to arrest both of us. At that time, they would take both children and put them in child custody. I said, I'm not pressing no charges, I don't want nothing, I just want to go home. My son can stay, I have no problem. At that time, the female officer told me to stand by the door, don't move. So at that time, there was a knock at the door. 2 more officers came, 2 male officers now. We go back inside, she's in there screaming. Next thing you know, all I hear is her mother screaming at me. Jason, I wouldn't do this to you. And she said, why are you doing this? I said, what's going on? The officer said, turn around, and they handcuffed me. Later, when I was taken down to central booking for arrest, I was informed of the charges. It was assault with weapon, child endangerment. They said I put a knife to my son's back. At no time did I ever touch a knife to grab against my son. Because of that, I had charges of an ACS for attempted on my child, and
All right, you were held in jail for 2 days, is that right?
for, yeah, almost 2 days. I called my fiance.
All right, the charges were subsequently dismissed when you decided to drop all charges against each other, is that right?
Yeah.
Do you see your son now so regularly?
No.
Why not?
I still can't, because she won't let me see my son.
Uh-huh.
It's a struggle for me to see my son.
All right.
And every time we went to family court for me to get a chance to see my son, she made false charges, knowing I was going to get visitation of my son, then I'm arrested.
Okay. I'd like to see first the medical bills that you have as a result of this incident on Christmas Day.
I didn't get to get the medical bills because this happened so quick that I didn't get a chance to get them. So I have my pictures.
Let me see all the papers you have. All the papers.
Your Honor, Judy.
Shh, just a minute.
I have a scar on my left hand.
Just a minute.
And the lady that
Just
called,
a second. These scratches are what you're talking about?
Yeah, I had a scratch.
All right.
I had a hairline fracture in my left hand.
Don't tell me you had a hairline fracture without any medical bills, without reports. Don't tell me about a hairline fracture.
Excuse me, Judge?
Shh. I'll get to you in a minute.
Thank you.
I have a few questions for Ms. Gonzalez. The police officer who took this report took your statement, is that right?
Yes, and on the statement.
I'm speaking. The police officer who took the report took your statement, and he read the statement to you, is that right?
Yes, he did.
And after he read the statement, he asked you if it was accurate, is that right?
Yes, he did.
And you said it was accurate, is that right?
That's right.
And you signed it?
Yes.
And you wouldn't have left out anything vitally important, is that right?
No.
So I'm going to read what you wrote in the statement.
I didn't write that. The officer.
What the I don't care whether you wrote it or the officer wrote it. I just asked you whether he read it to you and whether you signed it. You said yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Lopez says ex-girlfriend Suhey Gonzalez had him falsely arrested for domestic abuse. Suhey claims Jason slammed her hand in a door and held a knife to their son's throat.
All right, Ms. Gonzalez, I'm going to read what you wrote in this police report. It says, at the time and place listed above, the perpetrator, that's him, who was the victim's common-law husband, did grab the victim by her throat, choked her, at which time he forced her left hand between the door and the wall and repeatedly slammed the door on the victim's hand, causing substantial pain and swelling to the victim's left hand. That's what this says, okay? Now I'm going to tell you what you wrote in your answer. When I told him to leave, he grabbed our son and tried to take him. When I tried to stop him, he pulled a knife out and held it to my son's neck. He said, if you don't let me take him, I'll kill both of us.
No, they didn't write it in the police.
They wrote nothing about a knife threatening to kill himself, threatening to kill this child. You know why they didn't write that down? Because you didn't tell them that.
Is that you?
No. Because you didn't tell them that.
All right,
at the time.
didn't tell them exactly at the time.
Right, at the
because
time.
they had me in a separate room, they had him outside.
Just a second. At the time, you didn't tell them that he took out a knife, he held it to the baby's throat, He threatened to kill the baby. You told him that he hurt your hand and your hand was in pain. Not that he threatened to kill your child. You made that up later.
No, I did not.
Oh, yes, you did.
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, yes, you did.
They knew that he was the one. Can I say something?
Yeah.
In that police report, the lady signed, she's the one who signed right next to the statement, not me. Because I didn't call the cops because he broke my phone, and that's why. I didn't call the cops. The lady from my building called the cops. She's the one who had both of my kids because my oldest was crying. She's the one who called the cops.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to call the cops.
Here we go.
Because he wanted to take my son, just like he took my son 3 weeks ago.
Let me explain to you what got you angry, Miss Gonzalez. I've been in this business a long time. He's at your house. According to your answer, he told you a couple of weeks before or a month before, he didn't want to have, I'm speaking, that he didn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. He had a new girlfriend. Clearly, he has a new girlfriend. All right?
Excuse me.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking. He comes over to your house, right? According to your answer. You open up the Christmas presents together. It's all a nice family situation. You ask him to watch the kids while you go take a shower. This is what you write here. When you come out of the shower, you hear him on the phone with his girlfriend. I'm not saying that that's what happened to her. I'm saying that that's what she wrote in her answer. That makes one very angry.
Of course.
Of course. Of course that makes you very angry because there you're here with him, with a new baby. He's taking care of the baby's presents. He's in your house Christmas time, and he's going to say goodbye to you, and he's going to go to girlfriend number...
And it was just a week that we had broken up.
Fine. So you're really angry. The knife was a nice touch. He wasn't arrested with a knife. He wasn't arrested with a knife. You know what I'm talking about.
And
you know what I'm talking about.
And I know what happened.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what happened. Because he tried to take my son. He tried to take my son.
Just a second. What do you mean?
That's how... Who called my mother?
Miss Gonzalez.
Who called my mother? The lady?
Miss Gonzalez.
That called the cops?
Miss Gonzalez. Is he the father?
Yes, he's the father. And I'm not saying that he's not.
I'm speaking. Is he the father?
Yes.
Then you have no greater right to this child than he does.
But he kidnapped my son for 3 weeks.
He can't. You can't kidnap your own child unless there's an order of custody.
This is recently. We've been going through this. I just want to go on with my life. I want him to go on with his life. If he wants to see his son, he's more than welcome to see his son. I have nothing wrong with that. But he cannot see his son because he has order protection.
Then they're going to put you out. When you claim that you were severely assaulted, and the best picture that you can come up with is a picture showing me 2 scratches on your arm. 2 scratches. That's what they are. No hairline fracture, no hospital records, no... Well, all right. This was an argument. And unfortunately, because the police take domestic violence seriously, as they should, they got to arrest somebody.
And I lost my securities license.
Mr. Lopez, you do not get an A+ for smarts. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't get an A+ for going back for a $39.99 cell phone after you have already had an altercation with her, and you were out of the problem. You were outside.
Because he never went outside.
Excuse me?
Because he never went outside.
Because you wouldn't let him go outside, Miss Gonzalez,
because
because
he was
you
trying
were
to kidnap
so
my son.
angry.
He was trying to take my son. And he's devious like that he would take my son and leave. Just like he did 3 weeks ago. And that's why he was going to get rearrested. I had to get the cops to come get my son from his house.
You keep saying my son.
Because he's my son. Because he don't pay no child support. He doesn't do nothing.
What do you do for a living?
He hasn't done nothing.
What do you do for a living?
I was working.
What do you do for a living now?
Nothing.
Who supports the child?
I do.
No, not if you're not working. You get welfare?
Yes, I do.
If you get welfare, then I support your son. You think I should take him?
Yeah, but I was working.
Just a second. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? He doesn't support his child, and you don't support your child. I support your child. So that mean that I should get custody? Don't be ridiculous. All right, Miss Gonzalez, you keep saying, it's my child. He's taking my child. He's entitled to see his child. It doesn't sound to me like he's too bright. Because he went from this child, you're going to have another child? You keep rubbing your belly, right? Yes. You got enough trouble with one. You're going to make another one? Yep. How many more do you have?
That's the only one. The only one coming.
In any event, I read the police report. I read the police report that doesn't talk about a knife to the throat, threatened to kill the child, threatened to kill anybody, and I see 2 scratches on your arm. You also, sir, you want to play that for me?
Yes, I even have it.
Go ahead, let me hear it.
But I still can't get over the fact why you had me arrested.
Because I was just upset. Things were going through my mind. I'm admitting I'm sorry.
Oh, so you're admitting that you did get me arrested.
This is why he was...
This chick, because I was with another chick?
No, it wasn't only because of that. It was because of a lot of things, Jason.
Oh, okay. But then why did you tell him I punched you in your face, I choked the out of you?
No, I didn't say that.
Gigi, the DA said that in the court.
Mr. Lopez, I didn't even have to listen to that. I mean, I've heard this, I've been around this business now for 27 years, right? Yes. And I know, when I read your papers, I see her affect, right? Yeah. And I know exactly what happened. That doesn't mean that you were smart, A, as I said, to go back to the cell phone, B, to get a telephone call from your girlfriend. Tell your girlfriend, don't call me until I call you. I don't want to create any more problems with her. I'm going to open presents with the children. Don't call me. That creates a problem.
We had already opened the gifts. This was around the time I was getting ready to leave.
She shouldn't have called you, and you shouldn't have spoken to her. Say, this is a tacky problem. I don't want there to be any problem with her. Don't call me. I'll be there. I'll be home when I'm home. And the reason she called is because it's a little territorial. She's not so happy either. You're going over to visit mother number one. She's going to be mother number two. You know, you got to be smart.
She wasn't pregnant at the time.
2 months later. Wow,
now she is. Now she is, right? And on your security job, you can hardly afford to pay for yourself.
I don't have work.
Listen to me, sir. When you had a security job, you could hardly afford to pay for one child. Now you're going to have two. Did you pay for a lawyer? No. They gave you a free lawyer.
Yes.
You spent a couple of days in jail.
Yes.
You shouldn't have.
And so did I, because he falsely arrested me.
For what?
He said that I made phone harassment. On June 30th, he called me. I have the phone records for that. He called me with my own phone card that he rung up. He falsely arrested me on June 31st. I got arrested. I made the report on June 30th. As soon as the time right after he called me and called them and let them know that he was calling me and harassing me. And he called me with my own phone card. And right after that, he calls his girlfriend and his mother.
No. No.
Ms. Gonzalez, your counterclaim is for the assault that you claim he perpetrated on you
and
on
forced
Christmas
arrest.
Day.
It says it on the paper.
And according to your complaint, you are filing for injuries and damages due to the alleged assault. Okay? You do say somewhere in your answer that he filed false charges, but the damages you are requesting are for the assault. And I don't find that he assaulted you, so your counterclaim is dismissed. The only thing that I have to consider now is whether there was an argument and whether, as a result of false statements that you made and continue to make and continue to embellish to the police.
Not me,
that
because
I'm
I want to go on with my life. He's the one who brings me here. For what?
He brought you here
for
because
what? He keeps calling me and harassing me.
Listen to me. He's known you a long time. I've met you now for about 15 minutes, and I don't think he's crazy. And I wouldn't precipitate phone calls and contact with you because I think that you're an angry lady. I think that you feel as if he jilted you, that he left you high and dry with your baby, and now he's got somebody else. All of those things, doesn't pay child support, you're not working, but that doesn't give you the right to have him arrested and make false allegations, which I believe that you did, and I'm awarding him $1,000 on his claim. That's all. By the way, she doesn't have your entertainment center.
Yes, she
That's
does.
all.
Your Honor, when we went there, the officers explained.
Well, here's our excuse. You may step out.
I'm happy that finally the truth came out, that somebody actually really knows what happened.
I just want to go on with my life. This is a closed chapter in my life, and I'm going on with my life.
She started this whole mess, nobody else but her, and then she has the nerve to get all upset.
I hope he goes on with his life and start paying child support and give me back my son's stroller that he stole for her new baby.
Please, and that's I already have one, honey.
Yeah, right. So you know what? Shove it up your plain and simple.
Oh, you're so classy.
My son is my life. I would never do anything to harm my son.
Go on with your life.
He wants to take care of the child. He doesn't want to be with you. When Amanda says he doesn't want to be with you, just leave it alone.
Keep him up.
Elementary school teacher Louise Hamilton and her son, 14-year-old student Christopher Booker. Alfonso claims Christopher shot out the window of his home with a BB gun.
Mr. Williams, you are a neighbor of the defendants?
The witness is my neighbor.
The witnesses?
The witness for the defendant.
Well, how far do you live away from this young man?
About 2.5 to 3 miles.
Okay. Do you know who he is?
Yes.
Had you known him from before this incident?
No, I haven't.
It is your claim that Chris had some BB guns, and he and a friend shot out a window in your house.
Really, 3 windows were damaged, because one was the storm when it went through the interior window, too. Before the BB hit the window, my granddaughter hit the floor when it came through the window, because she was upstairs with her cousin.
Were you at home at the time?
Yes, I was.
Did you see them shoot out the window?
Yes, I saw them right before I came outside. I looked out of my dining room window and I saw them. Then I came out of my house, came around to the side of my house, and they started running from the house and ran into his house.
How many boys were there?
It was just them two at the time.
Did you see their faces?
Well, that's the first time I ever seen. I seen them when I looked out the window, yes.
What did you see them doing when you looked out the window?
When I seen them looking out, they was holding BB pistols in their hands when I looked outside and seen them, though.
Did you chase them?
By the time I got to the side of my house, there's like a little entranceway going back to the witness's house. I seen both of them run to the witness's house, and I came around and knocked on the door, and no one answered.
Did you finally see them again?
No, I didn't get a chance to see them again since that day, but only with the witness. That's the one person I seen after that.
The witness?
Right.
Which witness?
Right there.
You?
Jordan.
Step up. You know Chris?
Yes.
Step up here. Did he come into your house?
Chris?
Yeah.
Yes.
And was that in the afternoon?
About 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock at night?
Mm-hmm.
Did he come running into your house?
He came to my door and knocking.
Who was he with?
I think he was by himself.
When you say you think he was by himself, could he have been with somebody else?
I don't know, probably yes.
Who let him in?
He didn't come in the house.
He was just knocking at the door?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody let him in?
No.
Why not?
I don't know, we were just sitting there watching TV.
So you decided not to let him in?
Yes.
I could see I'm going to get a whole bunch of information from you. Sit down. There was one other boy involved. According to your complaint, the other boy's parents paid for half the cost of the windows.
Yes, ma'am.
Who was that other boy?
Right there.
This boy?
Yes.
Are you his parent?
Yes, I am.
You paid for half the cost of the window?
Yes.
Step up. What's your last name?
Sanderson.
Miss Sanderson, why did you pay for half the cost of the window?
The reason I paid for half the cost of the window is, as he said, our properties, back up to each other. And I felt responsible because the kids were at my house when the incident occurred. I think my son thought you were speaking about Mr. Williams coming to the door, not Chris. I don't know if
I'm talking about Chris.
Okay.
So tell me about it.
When I came home that evening, the police were at my house with Mrs. Williams. When I came in the driveway, I asked what happened, and she said that the boys had been over by their window. I said, had anything happened? And she said that Mr. Williams had come out and chased him back to the house. I said to the police that day that I felt responsible. They shouldn't have been back there. If they'd been there to see his granddaughter, they should have gone to the door. And so I agreed to be responsible for half the window. And that's what I did.
Well, I see you're a witness for the defendant. Why are you a witness for the defendant?
Because Chris was, to the best of my knowledge, not involved in this at all.
You don't know?
I know that the only window
You know that Chris had 2 BB guns, right?
Yes.
That we know. He didn't have 2 goldfish in his knapsack. He didn't have 2 golf clubs in his knapsack. He had 2 BB guns in his backpack, right?
Yeah.
What else did you have in your knapsack?
That's all.
So before you left for his house, you didn't pack your homework books, right? No. You didn't pack a mac and cheese, right? You didn't pack a devil dog. You packed your 2 BB guns, right?
Yep.
Did you pack them loaded?
Yes.
And his window just happened to get shot out.
Yes.
And you happened to be going over there to try to get in touch with his granddaughter.
No, that wasn't me.
Who went over to try to see his granddaughter?
My 2 friends.
Had you given your 2 friends your BB guns?
Nope.
Did they have their own BB guns?
No.
What were you doing with the BB guns, Chris?
Well, he had a target over his house, so...
It's 9 o'clock at night. You're not going target practicing at 9 o'clock at night with your BB guns.
Tell the truth. Yeah. Yes. We went over there.
Where are the targets?
They were in his house. But we were in his basement.
And you were target shooting in his basement?
Yes.
With your BB guns?
Yes.
Never used them outside?
No.
So it's just coincidental. Do you have BB guns?
No.
What about the other 2 friends that he was talking about? Do they have BB guns?
No.
Only he has BB guns?
Yes.
Good. How much was the window that was broken?
Police department paid an estimate of $200 for the 2 windows.
Well, how much did you pay?
I paid $100.
Listen, BB guns are dangerous. They take out eyes. They take out eardrums. Why do you allow your son to have 2 BB guns?
I allowed him to have them because I bought targets and they practice and shoot them in my basement and at her house also.
Just too coincidental to me. Nobody else in the neighborhood has BB guns except him. He's got 2. He saw 2 people shooting BBs in his backyard. His granddaughter ducked down because the BB went right through the glass. His son should not have a BB gun. Is there any reason for him to have a BB gun?
No, not especially. Just
take it away.
Yes, I do have
stupid.
them, but you know,
it's stupid. It's not smart. Children can get hurt.
Yes.
So why would you allow your child to have any weapon that could cause an injury?
Well, I assume, you know, if they were supervised, if they're in the house, in the basement, they're
That's
not
not being
firing them
supervised. She wasn't there. And you're not always there in the basement when they're
well,
shooting
I
your
am when
house?
they're at my house. Yes, I am.
You are not in the basement with them when
Oh,
they're
no,
shooting.
I'm not in the basement.
Of course not. So, BB gun, you take it, you play around, you say, I'm going to shoot you, bend down, whatever. That's how children not only lose eyes, but they lose their lives. So it's not smart for him to have a BB gun. It's going to cost you $100, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Please excuse. You may step out.
When they have the BB guns, you know, I'm around in my basement.
I wouldn't even allow somebody to have a BB gun because they are dangerous.
He's more responsible than to shoot out somebody's window.
Just don't use BB.
The couple accused the Sanchez's son, 15-year-old Mario Obregon, of throwing a rock at their car window and breaking it.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 49 on the calendar in the matter of Perez versus Sanchez. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. It may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Perez, it is your claim that the defendant's son broke a car window with a rock.
That is correct.
When did this happen?
This happened on December 17th, 2000.
Are you neighbors?
We live across the street from each other, yes.
And where was your car parked?
My car was parked right in front of my house by the parking lot of the Ramada where we live.
That isn't correct. I'm sorry. Sorry. It was parked in the common area.
Is it on the street or in a parking lot?
In a parking lot.
Okay. Do you have a photograph so I can see where your car was parked?
I live right across from the parking lot.
In one of these houses?
No, I'm facing this way.
On the other side, I can't see your house, is that right?
Right.
All right. And who lives in these houses?
They live on the left side where the beige with the brown trimming is at.
In the carport.
Is this your house? Can you see?
We're on the other side of the Ramada.
You're on this side?
Right there.
You're here. Okay. You weren't there when this happened?
We were home.
But
were
you
inside
did
the
not
house.
see what happened?
Exactly, we did not see.
Okay. Who saw what happened?
The 2 witnesses here, Carlitos and Antonio.
Are they neighbors of yours?
They live around the neighborhood, yes.
Okay. Let's start with the older young man first. Come up here. Tell me your name.
Antonio Vasquez.
Antonio, you're a neighbor?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah. Yes,
Are you nervous?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. But you're going to tell me the truth, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
What can I do to you if you don't tell me the truth? You don't know? Nothing good. You got me? Okay. Tell me what you saw with regard to this rock throwing incident.
Well, what I saw is that...
Look at me.
What I saw is that Mario threw a big rock.
Who's Mario?
The one that's sitting down right there.
Uh-huh.
He threw a rock to the Ramada in front of my house, hit the roof. That's where it bounced and almost hit my friend Carlitos in the head, and he ducked and hit the car window.
Was anybody else throwing rocks?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I thought. Who else was throwing rocks? Look at me.
2 friends of mine and my friend here.
So you were all throwing rocks?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were you throwing rocks at?
I was throwing rocks to Mario.
So you were throwing rocks at Mario, and Mario was throwing rocks at you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your brother?
No, he's my friend.
What's his name?
Carlitos.
Carlitos. Carlitos was also throwing rocks at Mario?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have any other friends with you that were throwing rocks at Mario?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was your other friend?
My other friend was Gilbert and Alex.
Gilbert and Alex. And who are they?
They're 2 friends that live by the neighborhood.
How old are they?
One is 7 years old and the other one's 6.
So there were 4 of you throwing rocks at Mario?
Yes, ma'am.
What was Mario doing when you were throwing rocks at him?
Mario was cleaning his front yard.
So why did you decide to throw rocks at him?
Well, first,
Now, I want you to tell me the truth. So far, you're doing really well. Okay? So far, you're doing really well. This is not a terrible thing. Not a smart idea to throw rocks because somebody could have gotten hurt, right? But we're not talking about capital murder here. We're talking about kids playing. So I want you to be sure to tell me the truth. You and 3 of your little friends started to throw rocks at Mario.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you started it.
No.
Who started to throw rocks at Mario?
Gilbert.
Gilbert. Any particular reason Gilbert started to throw rocks at Mario?
Well, he flicked it at Mario.
He flicked it. Well, there's not much of a difference between flicking and throwing. So first he flicked it. Did Mario say something like cut it out, stop it?
No, ma'am.
Didn't say anything. Who threw another rock at Mario?
Well, first Gilbert flicked it at Mario, so Mario threw a whole bunch back at Gilbert, so his other friend Alex decided to help him.
Who's Alex?
His other friend of Gilbert.
But Mario was all alone, right?
Yeah.
And it was the 4 of you throwing rocks at him. How many times did you throw a rock at him?
I only threw once.
Only once?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you throw a rock at Mario?
I threw it because he threw a whole bunch at Alex because he was running towards us, and one just got out of the group and hit me on the arm and bruised me right here.
Well, you started it, you and your friends. All he was doing was taking care of his front lawn.
Yeah, but we weren't with Gilbert and Alex. They were just around the street. We were just playing on the Ramada.
But you came over and you started to help them.
No, I threw it one at him because he hit me. So I'm trying to defend myself.
Sit down. They're little kids. Mario,
Yes.
how old are you?
I'm 15.
So they're stupid little kids, right?
Yes.
So what'd you throw the rocks back for?
We're unaggressively playing.
You were playing.
Yes.
Mr. and Mrs. Perez, did you get all this information from these boys when you talked to them?
No, it wasn't that way. You know, they came to our house. They told us we were playing at the Ramada. Gilbert and Alex were playing by their street. He was cleaning the yard. Gilbert had thrown a rock towards him. He threw a rock towards the other 2 little kids. Then Mario continued throwing rocks.
No, they were all throwing rocks at each other.
And then,
Mr. and Mrs. Perez, they were all throwing rocks at each other.
Exactly. They were all throwing rocks, and then Mario had threw they're decorative rocks, a real small rock, threw a whole bunch of them, hit Antonio on the arm. And then they threw back.
What makes you think if they started it, these 4 little boys, he's out there minding his own business, doing his work in this front lawn, 4 little kids come over and they start to throw rocks. First one, then another, then he takes small pebbles, big little ones, and tosses them back at them, and they started doing it. Why would you think that he's only responsible for this instead of all these boys?
According to the witness, they was playing by themselves, this 2 kids, and the other kid was playing by themselves.
No. It's not how it happened. No. It's not how it happened.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Renee and Leticia Perez say 15-year-old Mario Obregon broke their car window with a rock.
Listen to me. They started it. And what I'm asking you is, why do you think that only one boy is responsible, even though he's older and should have known better?
He threw the rock that hit the remote of the roof, striking my window to my car. With
Fine,
this
now
rock.
I understand. Because he threw the rock that you believe ultimately
And we
hit
went
the
and
car.
talked to him. We went to his house. We talked to him. We asked him, did you break the window of my car? He says, I might have.
He might have.
Okay, and then I'll pay for it, but just don't tell
Mrs. Perez, you ain't getting it. I believe that 5 kids are responsible for breaking your window, not just one. They shouldn't have been throwing rocks at each other, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you might have. One of the rocks that you threw might have broken their window, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But he's not solely responsible. Let me see the estimate on the damage to your car. What kind of car was it?
It's a 1991 Geostorm.
Your Honor, I also got something that states a price on that same window.
Let me take a look. Windshield repair. Okay.
And it had tags and registration at the time. Tags are expired. They expired on February of this month.
Listen to me, sir. This is not an estimate.
I understand that.
This is a card.
Correct. And the reason I gave that is because the young lady I spoke to on the 21st said that we can call her and
I'm not
verify.
calling her. All she has to do is give you an estimate, like
Okay.
this.
Thank you. Okay.
It's like this, an estimate. And it costs about $1,000 to fix it, right?
The wing show, yes.
There were 5 boys involved, correct?
That's correct.
That means he's responsible for $200. You got to get the rest from the other boys. You understand? 5 children involved in throwing rocks. Not just one. He didn't even start it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all.
Parties are excused and they step out.
He is much older. He had no business throwing rocks back at them.
Mario threw a lot of rocks and hit him in the arm and bruised him.
I agree that I shouldn't have been throwing rocks,
He was throwing rocks towards my car.
but I did not break the window.
I've learned when everybody starts throwing rocks, I just walk away.
He gave Lawrence to run a boys' basketball team.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2167, Gabriel versus Senior.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gabriel, it's always exciting for me when I find a case that I can't relate to based upon my own personal experience. And this has to do with sports.
Yes.
And those people who know me know that I'm really a non-functioning American when it comes to sports. I understand baseball, but nothing else. However, I have a little bit of experience with people. So you have a son, that would be you. Could you stand up for a moment? Who's tall, now you can sit down, and who likes to play basketball.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he's been playing basketball for a long time. Well, most sports stopped at the start of the pandemic. And he was playing for a team.
Yes, Your Honor.
I know that I'm going to get fuzzy on this eventually. So far, I'm holding up okay. So he was playing for the team. The team closed down, as did most other things. And the pandemic is sort of winding down, and sports are coming back. And you wanted your son to play basketball because this is your senior year in high school?
No, I'm a freshman in college, Your Honor.
Last year, so this happened last year?
Yes, I was a senior.
So this happened last year when he was a senior in high school, and you wanted him to play because he enjoyed it and because you thought somebody would find him? A scout?
Mostly the enjoyment, but there's always a chance for the scout.
Okay. And, you know, you're his father, and fathers always think that their sons are uber talented and maybe can be one of those quiet self-starters who turns out to be the hero on the basketball court. I have a grandson who plays baseball, and he plays baseball pretty well. Plays in college. His father follows him around from one game to another like it was a basketball coach who you knew.
Yes, Your Honor.
Whose team was also the teams that he coached were also defunct because of COVID. So far, correct, Mr. Senior?
Yes, ma'am.
So at some point you approached him and said, I'd love to start up this team again because I would like my son to play ball. He wants to play ball, and nobody else is doing it that I know of. What would it take to restart a team that could be part of a league or play other teams, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
You know.
Yeah.
Is that close?
Yeah.
You're close.
You're close.
Yes.
Close enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. So you talked about an amount, and Mr. Senior said, I can start the team up for $8,500.
Yes, ma'am.
You, who wanted desperately for your son to play ball his senior year, said, I'm going to give you the money. You gave him $8,500. So far, correct?
$8,200.
It's $8,500, Your Honor. I have the check right here if you'd like it.
Okay. If you have the check, cash it. So it's $8,500. The team only played one game or one tournament?
No, it was actually four tournaments in total for that season that we played.
And how many are you supposed to play?
We had planned on 6 in total. 1 would be out of state or far away.
No. How many games were supposed to be played by your son's team being coached by the defendant?
So a tournament could have 3 games. And that takes over the course of a weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday. So a tournament could be 3 games. A tournament
is 3 games.
Could be 4 as well if you're successful.
Okay, so you were supposed to have 4, was disbanded.
Yes.
For whatever reason, may or may not be relevant. So how much money do you want back?
You're suing him for $4,800.
Right.
Well, you know, math is my second non-strong suit.
Yep.
But if you paid him $85 and you played 2/3 or 3/4 of the games that you were supposed to play, why do you think you would be entitled to $4,800 back?
Because I also fronted the money for the uniforms.
Well, that was spent.
And the graphics.
Well, that was
in
spent.
addition to the $8,500.
I understand that, but that was all spent. The uniforms, the players got. Right? And they kept them?
The players kept some, and the defendant has the rest of them.
Okay. Do you want them back?
I do not.
Well, he'll give them to you back if you want them, because he's not using them.
How do I know that? This is his team, his organization. It's a non-for-profit company.
Okay, let's deal with it slowly. We're dealing with the math first. Do you have, Mr. Senior, do you have any of the uniforms?
No, ma'am, I never collected the uniforms.
Did you
sole
have?
Possession.
What?
Well, he had sole possession of the uniforms.
So you don't have any uniforms?
No, he's the one that handed them out.
Okay. Did any of the players give them back to you?
No, none of them gave.
So you don't have any uniforms? He doesn't have any uniforms?
Okay. But, Your Honor, it didn't cost $85 to run the team, that's my...
Just a second. Now, what we're talking about, sir, your $8,500 went to have 6 tournaments. You had 4 tournaments, right?
Yes.
Whether or not you get your money back is a whole other thing. But the uniforms were purchased. That you don't get back. The advertising graphics were done. That you don't get back. Whether it's for 4 or a 6.
That was his team's name on it.
Doesn't matter. What difference does it make?
Jason Gabriel claims his former friend, Lawrence Sr. owes him money after they started a boys' basketball team.
Now, can you tell me why the tournaments were cut short?
Other sons tried to discourage Mr. Giamni about forming a team of that age group.
Okay. I don't want to get back into that, sir. You took his money. You played 4 out of the 6 tournaments. How much were you paid to coach out of this $8,500?
I wasn't paid anything.
Did you?
It's more of an administrative cost.
What administrative costs?
Scheduling tournaments, gyms, gas, transporting kids that didn't have rides. More than half the team was not supported by their family. At least one kid was homeless.
Was there an accounting that you asked for, sir?
Yes, that was my initial response to Coach Larry. Was yes, he told me $8,500 to start the team.
No, I'm asking you an accounting at the end of the day.
I asked him where the money went. Like, could he account for $8,500 in addition to $1,600 that other kids paid to play? That's how I was going to get my money back. It wasn't just, I'm going to give you the money and you go do with it what you want. He told me it was $8,500 to start the team, and I would get my money back.
Oh, from what source?
The kids pay to join the team.
Okay. How many people were on the team?
We had as many as 14, maybe 16 come through.
To trials. They didn't play. I'm sorry. How you doing, Your Honor?
How am I doing? I've been better. You're his son?
Yeah, I actually run the program with him. Yes.
Okay, good. So how many young men were playing basketball?
On the team that you're talking about that's in question, I believe there was as many as 10 to 12 that actually came. The numbers vary because we're talking about 18-year-old children that come and go as they please. They don't really want to be that.
18-year-olds are maybe children to their parents. They're not 18-year-old children.
When it comes to...
I want to know is, did you have a contract with him? A written contract?
I did not.
You just said, here's your $8,500 and I'll get my money back when the kids sign up and pay their dues. How much do they pay each to join the team?
Coach Larry set that number at $600 per player.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we tell you where that number comes from? Over the years, because we've been doing this for over 20 years, the average cost to run a team for a full season, we averaged it out to be about $600 per kid. Because on a 10 to 12 man roster, 10 being the least you should have.
How does he make money?
We don't make money, I'm sorry. We don't make any money.
So you don't make any money, you just do this for the love of the sport?
He grew up in a basketball family, he's played basketball all his life. I've been in a sports family, my brother has, and we just love sports.
So this is not a money-making operation?
Not at all. We probably put in more money than we've made or put out in the program. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, I coach high school football. Actually, his son goes to the school I coach. So I was aware of him, and I also coach baseball. So I just don't, you're not going to make any money coaching youth sports if that's what everybody's saying.
Well, I'm just asking you.
No, I know that.
I'm just asking you, because there is a suggestion here that some of that money was to pay you as coach. And I just want to know whether that is in fact correct, whether any of this $8,500 went to you.
Not directly, no. Talking about gas.
Indirectly to pay for gas and pick up
maybe a
that
car
sort-
repair. I only had one car at the time.
Okay.
So
Mr.
me and my wife
Gabriel,
were retired.
Mr. Gabriel, can you tell me if you have, since you have no written contract, you have no written contract requiring anything, you were supposed to start up a basketball team, which he did. I assume you played, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you played in 4 out of 6 tournaments. Stand up next to your dad. Did you play successfully?
I only played 3 out of the 4 tournaments.
Basketball court at a time.
5 at a time.
5 at a
What?
5 at each team at a time, so 10
5
total. Yes.
Well, if you had 10 to 12 kids, you what? What are you laughing at? I don't know.
I tried to expose it to you before this case. I tried to put it on TV. I played the Lakers.
So if I
I
could
played
back
the
up to
Clippers.
2019, we met Coach Larry in 2019. I didn't just pick him out of the blue now.
I didn't suggest that you picked him out of the
So
blue.
my son
Mr.
played
Gabriel.
for him in the past.
Mr. Gabriel, you don't look like the man that would give some stranger $8,500 to start up a team, not knowing him.
Correct.
Okay, I accept that. I just don't understand that are you a business person?
I am.
What kind of business are you in?
I'm a contractor.
Well, if you're a contractor,
Yes.
that I know. You have contracts.
Absolutely.
You're a contractor has contracts. And the contract that you do, you build homes or you build...
I remodel homes, yes.
Okay. So the contracts that you do lay out with specificity what you're going to do, what the materials cost are, what the VIG is on it, within a certain amount of play. But it lays out everything that you're going to do. You're turning over $8,500 to the defendant, and there is nothing in there that suggests that with any specificity what he has to do to comply. He had to start a team, which he did, right? Had to start a team, which he did, where your son played.
Yes.
Which he did. There were supposedly 6 tournaments, out of which 4 were successfully played, and your son played in 3 of them, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you should have been happy. Somebody got a chance to see him. Did anybody give you a basketball scholarship?
I do play Division III basketball in Brooklyn.
Good for you.
I did multiple showcases, and I won in Connecticut in particular.
He's a good player, Your Honor.
He's a good player.
And so I was found through showcases that I did by my own.
Okay. But you played, and there was good practice. It was good.
Yes.
I don't know why it was disbanded after 4 tournaments. Do you? Do you?
Yes. There was multiple players who did not want to play anymore because they were verbally abused by the coach, and they just were fed up. And then there was other players that were let play for free, and people just thought that was unfair.
What do you mean with not play for free? Explain that to me.
That they were just let on the team without paying.
Oh, so some people were disturbed that some people paid to play and some didn't.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have anything that requires that they pay in a contract?
That would be Coach Larry that he does, and he passed out those to the kids.
No, I'm asking you for your... He didn't put in $8,500, you did.
Jason Gabriel is accusing his former friend, Lawrence Sr., of owing him money after their boys' basketball team ended.
Go ahead, sir.
I put the money to the team. He runs the team. I can't tell him how to run his team.
No, would you have a contract, sir, that tells you what your $8,500 was to be used for, and the expectation that you were going to get that money returned to you via fees that were paid to each individual player? That has to be it. And in the event that they don't pay, who's going to pay?
Well, I do have a text message from the defendant saying, I did not use all the money. It did not cost $8,500.
Okay,
and I will pay you back.
That's what I would like to see. Because it was disbanded for whatever reason. All your reasons, sir, are hearsay. What is your first name?
Gianni.
Gianni, the reasons are hearsay. Why people left, they didn't like to be yelled at, they didn't like some people. That's all stuff that I can't process as a jurist in my head. All I know is this is a contract case. So now he paid $8,500 and...
No, I didn't.
Okay.
And this is also a text message saying he used it for his mortgage and that he agreed to pay me $400 a month to pay back the money.
Coach, fees to catch up on my mortgage, use some fees to catch up on my mortgage, at least $1,500. And between operating costs, there is roughly $2,400 left.
Correct.
Well, that's what you wrote to him.
Yeah. And I was willing to give him the money that the kids had paid up front.
No, No. There is roughly, not the money that the kids paid up front, sir. You say to him in your text, after this was all over, because I assume that this is all over after the team was just banded, there is roughly $2,400 left. So I'm going to have to work out sort of a payment arrangement, if you don't mind, which means you didn't have the money, but it was left over and you spent it on something else. And it's here it says, use some fees to catch up on my mortgage. I assume that's your home mortgage.
Correct, after the season was over.
Well, you can't do that. You can't do that, sir. Do you understand? Okay, well, this acknowledges several things. It acknowledges that he used $1,500 to catch up on his mortgage, right? And that, according to you and according to your son, whether or not you took a fee for yourself, paying your home mortgage is a fee. Do you understand that, sir?
I do.
All righty. So
I sure do.
You sure do. So $1,500, did you pay him back the $1,500?
No, because at that point...
No, the answer is no. And you said even after the $1,500, that's a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, then you add 24, and 15 is 009 is $3,900.
Yes.
Even my rudimentary math suggests to me that that is a correct number. Well, that's minimally what you owe him, your mortgage payment and the $2,400 left. You're suing him for $4,800.
Right.
This acknowledges 39.
Absolutely.
Prove to me any more.
So I went back to Mr. Senior and I said, I didn't necessarily believe that it cost $5,500 to run the team. I said, so therefore, you owe me $5,000. I said, you need to either get a loan and pay me back, or he said, I can't get a loan. I can give you $400 a month.
I'd like to see the exchange.
I said, if you're going to give
I'd like to see the exchange, just because you said, I think it's $5,000.
And this is where he says, I'd like to pay you back.
This doesn't say anything about $5,000.
And this is where I told him that he misappropriated money that was owed back to me, and that was his response.
Just because you said it, he doesn't acknowledge here in his answer that it's $5,000. Silence cannot be construed as acknowledging $5,000. Even the math doesn't fit in. You played more than half the tournaments. So
can we see how much the tournaments cost then, please?
No, I'm not bothering. That's nonsense. Put something in a contract. You're a contractor. Have a contract. Right now, he owes you $3,900.
And not for the uniforms?
No.
That has his team?
No, he says he doesn't have the uniforms.
Okay.
And I didn't go to 7 years postgraduate school to discuss a basketball uniform, a pair of shorts, and a pair of socks. I don't care.
The uniforms are $1,000.
Well, then somebody's overpaying for a pair of shorts. $3,900. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're finished.
Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
I think it was unfair.
I'm glad she ruled somewhat in my favor.
Amongst each other, poor discipline, and the lack of financial support from the kids.
When you have a group of 18-year-old young men and you don't practice and you don't kind of reel them in and show them that you're the coach and that you run the team, it can get a little hairy.
It is what it is.
I did what I did for these young men. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Me and Jason's are friends. I don't think this is a deterrent.
Always have contracts.
Okay, so I know that when we got the paperwork on this case that you really tried hard to give me a rudimentary lesson in basketball.
I did. Those years managing in high school really paid off today. So
yes,
learned
that's right.
a lot.
You managed.
I did a basketball team, so I know a little bit about AAU. A lot of the kids that played at the school that I went to had previously played on AAU teams, so I kind of get
What's
the dynamic.
AAU?
Oh, Amateur Athletic Union, AAU.
I never would have figured that.
Me neither. So they played on a lot of AAU teams before coming to high school, so I know a little bit about the structure. And when I read it, it's a nonprofit organization that kids play in to get exposure, hopefully to move up to the next level of basketball. But to me, I read it as he was sponsoring the team for $8,500, sort of like how you see in Little League, you know, Johnny's Pizza across the front of the
No,
team's
that
uniforms.
wasn't this.
But this seemed like a different type of setup, and to go through the coach directly, I'm not sure the very specific structure of who gets paid and who doesn't, who sponsors and who doesn't. But definitely paying your mortgage out of an $8,500 that was meant to start a team seems a little outside.
Yeah, well, it's
scope.
outside the box, especially since both he and his son say that they do this without compensation. Well, you don't have to take money and put it in your pocket. If you take money out of that account and pay your personal mortgage, that's getting paid for a parking space.
She's called the police over this multiple times. Mine was parked there first.
Who cares? There is no entitlement to park right in front of your house. It's a public street. I don't care if you park on Mars.
This is Judy Justice. Lynette Hernandez is suing her neighbors, Pamela Jackson and Ashley Jackson, for filing false CPS reports and defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2176, Hernandez versus Jackson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hernandez, you and the defendants are neighbors.
Yes.
You more recently moved into the neighborhood?
Yes, on February 25th of 2022.
And you've been living there for about a year?
Year and a half.
I have complaints and cross-complaints. Each one of you are claiming that the other is guilty of harassment. The defendant, in addition to the harassment, says that there was an assault on, that would be on you?
Me.
On you, by the plaintiff.
Yes.
And false police reports, reports to Child Welfare Administration. Each one of you is requesting serious damages as a result of this ongoing harassment and assault. And I gather from reading the papers that when you moved in, the whole bad feeling between neighbors started because of a parking space. Would that be correct?
Correct.
So your car is the white car?
Correct.
Tell me about the problem when you first moved in with the car, and go over to the chart.
Okay. So a month after I moved in, I politely asked Pamela if she can...
Pamela, that would be you?
Yes.
Your last name is Jackson?
Yes.
Okay. So you asked Miss Jackson, whose car is the car parked in front of yours?
Yes, this one.
Okay. So you said to Miss Jackson, go ahead.
I told her if she could please scoot up. We were both pulling in at the same time. We were coming back at the same time, so I thought I could politely ask her if she could just scoot up.
I don't know what that means, and perhaps other people do, but I don't. You asked her to move her car.
Yes, just a little bit forward, because on the handicap, the yellow line ends right there.
No, see, look at me. You asked her to, I see a handicap sign. So you asked her to move up.
Yes.
Why?
Because she parks so further back, and when the neighbors park back there, I have to like parallel park, and sometimes I'm in a rush, so I just, want to, sometimes it's too, I just wanted to politely ask her if she could just scoot up a little bit, because she has a bunch of space in the front, so I just thought I could...
I don't see a whole bunch of space. What is handicap? Where is that handicap spot?
Right here in front of her house.
Right there? You have a handicap sign?
When I moved in, I was told I could park there
Just a
because that's
second.
the old one. No, I do not.
You do not, so you shouldn't be parking there anyway.
I was told I could because that was the old sign. That's why they dismissed the ticket that she called to get when I didn't move my car.
Just a second. You can't tell me what somebody else said to you. There's a
That was from the
handicap sign.
police department in Marshall.
What, did you have something from the police department indicating that you can park in a handicap spot?
No, they removed it the next day and dismissed it because of that.
Just a second. Is the sign still there?
No, they removed it immediately.
Okay, fine.
Because
so
of
the sign was removed?
Yes.
And what is that alleyway where the trash can is?
That's the driveway for the next door neighbor's
house.
Just
a second. So that what she's doing in parking her car there is permitting the trash cans, which are supposed to be out into the street, right? Point to the trash can.
Yes, right here.
So the trash can is supposed to be out in the street. In order to get back to the house, somebody who lives in that back house has to pull all the way around the trash can and her car if she moves her car up.
Your Honor.
It makes it that much more difficult for the person who lives behind.
I understand. for trash day is understandable.
I don't care. She
when-
doesn't. You have to understand, Miss Hernandez, that she didn't have to accommodate you so that you don't have to parallel park.
Mhm.
She
I
doesn't-
just thought I could ask her politely, and
well,
I didn't think
when
it
you
was going to be.
okay, so let's go back a second. Now you can go back. So that's what started the trouble. You said politely. Tell me exactly what you said to her. Tell me exactly what you said to her, and you said that that happened in March. Go ahead.
I asked her, I said, excuse me, can you please scoot up a little bit so that I can parallel park? There was no trash
No,
that
just a
day.
second. I don't care. Trash, no trash.
That's how I
she
asked.
doesn't have to figure Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I have to scoot up my car because she doesn't like to parallel park. Do you understand? Trash day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Recycling Tuesday and Thursday, but not every week, every other week. So I have to remember to scoot up so that my young neighbor doesn't.
The way she told me was, ma'am, I would appreciate if you would just move around and park in the back. Now, the alleyway, it's illegal to
No, just
park.
a second. She said, let's go slowly.
So
ma'am.
she said, ma'am, I would appreciate if you would please move around to the back alleyway. I need parking for all my friends and family.
No, true. Your Honor, that's not true.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Sarah, I don't know what this is.
You don't have to keep hitting it. That's the whole video.
Thank you. If I hit it, maybe I hit it on the table a little.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well,
that only works with your phone.
It only works on my
Yeah.
phone? Fresh math.
I still have to pinch myself to really believe it.
You don't get better if you win all the time. You look at yourself more when you lose.
I'm thinking of my daughter today. I miss her so much. This is making me want to be more adventurous for her, definitely.
If by the last episode True Love is not achieved, Drama World will cease to exist. What?
It's up to us to stop it.
Lynette Hernandez claims her neighbor, Pamela Jackson, filed false CPS reports and defamed her. Pamela is countersuing for an assault.
Okay, she asked you to move. And you said to her, your response to her was, it's a public street, I'll park where I want to park.
I tried to explain to her I have arthritis, so if you'll see, I park where I can walk around my car and go up the walkway.
I don't care. You don't have to justify it to me. I asked you the question. You responded what? What did you...
The way I responded was for...
Think. If you don't remember, say I don't remember. Don't make it up.
I remember because I've stated this the whole time. Every time, even the police have sat there and asked why I parked there because she's called the police over this multiple times. I have even explained to them I park the way I do.
I want you to tell me.
I told her, I says, I'm older, I have arthritis, I park where I do to be able to use my walkway. Her response was, you'll have a better access. I need the walkway for stability because I've already had one fall.
Okay, whatever. You told her I can't accommodate you.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's not true because it didn't take that long. She got in her car and she actually got in and she scooted up.
And she moved up a little bit.
She moved up a little bit because the trash can wasn't there.
Okay, so you asked her, ma'am, could you move up a little bit? And so what you're telling me is she accommodated you.
She did.
And she didn't say anything to you.
So I thought it was okay.
And then what happened?
And then whenever I was parking, I got off and I told her, I was like, thank you. And then that's when she got upset.
No. In March, what you're saying is you asked her to scoot up, and she did.
And she did.
When was the next date that something happened with the car?
April 6th, she called the cops for the first time because she parked, that's how she parked. She parked very close to my car, as you can see on the picture. She started parking close to me like that. She called the cops for the first time.
Just a second. That photograph was taken April 6th?
Yes, ma'am.
Of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were parked right in front of your house?
Yes, ma'am.
First. And she parked in front of you?
Correct.
And you're telling me that she called the police?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Is that correct?
No.
Okay. Show me that she called the police on April 6th.
She did?
She called the police, and then she was telling them that...
No. Can't tell me what she was telling them. I want to see where she called the police on April 6th. She said she didn't. Is that what you just said to me?
I called the police. I'm not the one that parked. I was already parked there when she pulled up on me. I called the police because she tapped my back end before she pulled back.
Incorrect.
Okay, so you were parked there already?
I was already there, and it's an ongoing issue for months. She would pull up on me and sometimes tap my bumper.
And you were in the car?
I wasn't in the car. I was inside.
So you just saw her parked very close to you?
I saw her tap my bumper.
Okay, and that's when you called the police?
Yes.
Okay.
And she knew because she was recording me calling them.
Do you have that?
It's even on her TikTok.
I'd like to see.
I do, because she was lying to them and said that I hit her car, and I did not hit her car.
Which shows she was the one pulling in.
Well, but the scenario that she's telling Ms. Hernandez, that she's telling me, is different from what you told me. So let's get it clear. Was her car parked there first or yours?
Mine was parked there first.
And she says hers was parked there first. That means that she would have to back into that spot, whatever it was.
And she did.
Just a second. That's what you want me. She backed into that spot and proved that to me, because that would be silly. I see what you're showing me. What you're showing me is consistent with the cars being very close together. But you want me to believe that she actually backed into that spot.
She did.
Oh, it's a video?
Here. Your Honor, she did park like that day.
Yeah. I hope this video will show me that. I don't know what this... Sarah.
Yeah.
Am I getting the whole...
Yeah, you don't have to keep hitting it. That's the whole video. That's it.
Could we do it again?
Yeah.
Thank you. If I hit it, maybe I hit it on the table.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well,
that only works with your phone.
It only works on my
Yeah.
phone? Fresh math. Yeah, all right, this is useless. Okay, so the police came out, and was there a police report?
I have it right here.
May I have it, please? Who else lives in the house with you, Miss Hernandez?
Me and my 2 children.
Oh, well, that was nasty. Over a parking space? How unfortunate.
I'd like to see that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Oh, yes. The officer actually didn't believe her because there was nothing on her car.
Doesn't have to be anything on her car.
But she's
you tap somebody's bumper, there isn't always damage. That's close enough for me. Okay, give me the paper back.
The officer did not believe her because she lied. She made false accusations, saying that I was threatening her with a knife and with a baby in my arm. Officer didn't believe her because...
Don't tell me what the officer believed or what the officer didn't believe, madam. It's irrelevant what you think the officer believed. If the officer was here, I would question the officer. Okay, it all started over a parking space. And you have to understand, I'm not sympathetic with you. You move into a neighborhood, something is established in the neighborhood, because I'm sure she didn't wait to park in that spot just when you moved in. That's where she's been parking her car. It's not that you don't have a place to park. You have a place to park in front of your house. Mm-hmm. That's the defendant's house. Her car is parked right in front of her house. Mm-hmm. You have a place to park. Your car is parked right in front of your house. You want her to move to make it easier for you so that you don't have to struggle to park, so you could just scoot in and scoot out.
I just didn't want to risk hitting her car for being in a garage because the people behind me would park pretty close up.
Who cares? It's a public street. I don't care if you park on Mars. Mm-hmm. Then park someplace else on the street. It would bother me if that was my driveway and there was a car. Every time I pulled into my driveway, and I couldn't do it during trash days because it's even a wider turn, also that you didn't have to parallel park. I'm telling you, I'm not sympathetic with that. You're not entitled to a public street parking spot. That's sort of an entitlement that what generation?
Gen Z.
Gen Z, which is going to cause the demise of this country.
Life sometimes goes like you don't expect it to.
do to me. Turn it off.
This is real.
Lynette Hernandez has accused her neighbor, Pamela Jackson, of defaming her on social media. Pamela claims Lynette assaulted her with a trash can.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 27.
You're 27. Well, that makes sense. Is that called Gen X? Is that a Gen X? What is that?
I think it's a Gen Z.
Gen Z. Gen Z.
Yeah.
Gen Z, yes.
Your Honor,
There's a whole bunch of entitlements with Gen Z people.
Your Honor, I don't think it's...
Just a second.
Your Honor, I don't think it's fair that she has called CPS on
Just
me.
a second. We're not talking about fair. Right now, we're talking about parking.
Well,
right now, we're talking about what precipitated this bad feeling. And I agree with you. We'll get to the rest of the harassment, but what I'm telling you is you're off base here. You're not entitled to a public street parking spot that may or may not inconvenience somebody else. You have a spot in front of your house. But if the reason you told her to move her car and the people behind is because you don't like to parallel park, that is sort of an entitlement. I'm just telling you, Ms. Hernandez, that's sort of an entitlement that what generation?
Gen Z.
Gen Z. This is going to cause the demise of this country. There is no entitlement to park right in front of your house, comfortably. There's no entitlement to that. You wanted that, you should have bought a house that had a garage. If that started the... Now, she can call the police if she thinks that you touched her car, which you probably did. You didn't damage it, but you probably touched it because you were annoyed, because that's a constant source of irritation. No, so I'm not concerned about calling the police. Understand this. I'm concerned about calling CPS, because that's one of the issues here. And Miss Jackson, I believe, in her answer, said she did, in fact, call Child Protective Services.
And I've actually
Just a
got
second.
evidence.
Just a second. You called Child Protective Services when?
I made a call in August. Was it August or September?
If you don't remember, you don't remember. You made a call to Child Protective Services based on 2 times.
Twice. Well, there was the most recent one, so it's 3. So the first one...
Just a second. So you called Child Protective Services 3 times?
All 3 times, and I've got video evidence to why.
Okay, I'd like to see the video evidence.
Actually, pull that up. One of them has to do with the fact she was inside, and I'd been outside changing batteries. I went to verify my cameras, picked up the audio. She had been yelling at her daughter, threatening to beat her up.
Okay, just a second. The first time you called Child Protective Services was in August or September of 2022.
Correct.
That's what you said. Why did you call Child Protective Services the first time?
The first time was I saw her kind of shove her daughter backwards.
You have that on tape?
Did you find the tape on that one?
Yes. I'd like to see it.
Your Honor, they did not call CPS in August.
Just a second. She says she did. August or September.
Well, she's trying to claim earlier that I called in February, but that wasn't me. She had another situation going on. She even told the cop if it hadn't been for her telling me not to move my car, she wouldn't believe I was the one that called.
Okay.
Because she called the police on that.
I don't see anything sufficient for you to call CPS the first time on that. That was a motion with a hand. Child didn't fall.
There had been a bunch of yelling out before that.
I don't care. That's an overkill. What's next? When's the next time you called?
The next time I called, and she's got the video she can pull up for you. She was inside. I was changing my battery. She yelled at her daughter to get down.
Where was her daughter?
They were inside.
So you heard her yelling at her daughter?
Heard her yelling at her daughter to get down, or next time she does it, she's going to beat her up, and then we heard break your neck.
Okay, and you videoed that?
Yes, we even showed that to the police.
Okay,
Your Honor,
I'd like to see it. Looking at it, so far you...
She says,
Your Honor,
I'm gonna
that's
beat you
not
up,
me.
and if you don't listen, I'm going to break your neck.
Okay. How old is your daughter?
That's not me. My
Who is
daughter's
it?
7.
Whose voice is it coming from your house?
It's not me. It's the
Whose
neighbor that was on the corner.
What?
That's not me. My daughter's name or my son's name is Cam. She said, Cam.
No, she didn't.
You could listen to it again and it's going to say Cam. That's not me. That was the person that's in the...
Nobody
Want me to
has
just
any
listen
kids.
to it?
Yes, they do.
And she says, hey, get off the couch right now. I'm going to beat you up. Stop playing. Okay. I'm going to break it. Oh, she says, you're going to break your neck.
You're going to break
You're
your
going
neck.
to break your neck.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not me.
Second time. Just a second. Second time. Would I, based on that? She didn't say, I'm going to break your neck. She said, you're going to break your neck.
After she threatened to beat the child up, I'm actually a victim of child abuse.
I'm sympathetic with that, and I'm sensitive to that. I still think that that's a little bit of overkill, Miss Jackson. Let's go further.
To be continued. Are you a victim of an assault? Go to judyjustice.tv. Klingenberg for property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2164, Ritter versus McNally Klingenberg.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ritter, you own a piece of property,
That is correct, Your Honor.
and it's a residential piece of property,
That is correct.
and you use it as a business.
That is correct.
I would assume that this is your tenant.
That is correct.
Perfect. Could you stand up next to Mr. Ritter? What is your last name?
Mason?
Mason. These are your neighbors across the street?
Yes.
I live side by side.
So you're side by side, not across the street?
I live across the street.
Now, there came a time, Miss Mason, that you heard something that was unusual. Can you describe what you saw?
I was startled by the sound of a big thud and my dog freaking out and ran to the window. And so I jumped up, ran to the window where the dog as well was running toward, and looked out the window and seen the truck that had just hit the air conditioning unit.
Could you describe the truck?
A white truck pickup.
Had you seen McNally?
It was not.
Who was it?
The young lady beside him. Friend
Miss
across the street.
Klingenberg.
Yes.
When you looked outside, what did you see the truck do next?
As I looked out the window and made eye contact, I seen...
With her?
Yes, I seen Jeff at the back end of the truck, right by the AC unit, kind of backing her off a little bit, kind of gave her a raised hand.
So he was out there as well?
Yes, positioned behind the truck.
What did you do?
Well, I jumped up and then I ran and actually grabbed my phone to take pictures because I did not want to be responsible for what had just happened to the air conditioning unit. As I could tell, it had been moved and hit.
Do you have those photographs?
I did send those to Bob. He has pictures of those.
Kevin? Yes. Want to get them?
I immediately texted Bob as well, letting him know.
So that day, the 20th of August, you went, took photographs of the truck?
Yes, ma'am, and the yard and the air conditioning unit.
Mr. McNally?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where had you been camping?
We were camping in a place called McCall, Idaho.
Aside from you and Miss Klingenberg, who were there?
My son.
See how easy this is? It's going to get easier. Do you understand? Okay. Now, is this your girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. Now we got that clear. This is your girlfriend. You and your girlfriend were camping. Your son was with you. And what you were doing that day was you were trying to unload the truck with the camping gear, correct?
Correct.
Is the camping gear heavy?
Yes.
So somebody was driving the truck and somebody was schlepping the stuff out of the truck to put it away, right?
Correct.
Now, Mr. McNally, you don't want me to believe that either you or stand up, or this guy were just twiddling your thumbs and you backed up the truck so that you left Miss Clinton. That would make you certainly unchivalrous, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So when you were first confronted with this, you said, oh, my girlfriend wasn't driving, right?
Right.
So let's get it straight now, because that's what you wrote here in your answer. Oh, my girlfriend wasn't driving, my son was driving. That's not true. I don't know why you would choose to say my son was driving, not my girlfriend, unless she doesn't have a driver's license, because otherwise there'd be no difference whether your truck was being driven by you or your son or your girlfriend. Do you understand? No difference. Your truck being driven with you around hit his air conditioning unit. So what difference does it make? You have a driver's license?
I do not.
There you go. Perfect.
I was not driving, Your Honor.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. You were driving, and he says you were. You see, and he have a driver's license. Do you have a driver's license?
Yes.
Yes. But how did I know you didn't? Where do you think I got that from? I got that from common sense, because Mr. McNally doesn't look like a stupid man. And there would be really no difference if he drove the car, you drove the car, the son drove the car, his car caused damage. But in order to perhaps have insurance cover it, if he had insurance on the truck, do you?
My insurance had actually lapsed.
What? Okay. So it really didn't make any difference. If you had no insurance, you could have said she was driving. But didn't think that far. Okay, so that's why we're here. We're here because you let an unlicensed driver drive your truck that was uninsured that you took on a camping trip. Is this coming together for me?
It's close.
So now we got that straight, right? The next thing we have to take care of are the damages. I see that the outer part of this air conditioning unit was definitely hit. Now, that he caused while she was driving damaged the mechanism of the air conditioner because you replaced the unit and you want him to be responsible for the unit, right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
I have to see a photograph because I don't have this photograph of the inside of this. I just have the photograph of the cover.
I do not have the inside, but I do have from 2 HVAC companies that did go out to service it. One that did the replacement, the other that came out second opinion, as Jeff had asked us to do, which we did.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
This will be the second, and this is the actual invoice for payment.
Oh, this is the second opinion. This says second opinion call for unit itself. That's just not the lipstick on it. That's the guts of it. This says immediate repair, replace condenser coil and damaged panels, $39.61.
Correct.
Replacing the unit instead may be an option to consider. And to do the whole job, what did he want, $5,000?
The other side, $34.50 to replace the identical unit.
Okay, and to repair
it was less money to replace it.
than to repair.
Correct.
Okay. Do you understand that now?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Your
So,
Honor.
based upon your request, he got a second opinion. Second opinion was for more money to repair. He chose the lesser of the two, which is to replace the unit. The ball is in your court, sir.
Garrett was actually driving.
I don't believe it. You've had some time to reprocess it all. You would have had the boy, that's what you raised them for, strong boys. You wouldn't have said, well, you just sit in the car.
Claims homeowners Jeff McNally and Angela Klingenberg owe for property damage after hitting his air conditioner.
Your car, uninsured as it...
We don't believe we hit it.
The damage is on your truck, sir. There's a picture of your truck here. You want to see it? Or you don't have to see it. You'd be better off just saying, you know what? I don't have the money. You'd be better off just saying, because we started out wrong, you and I, Mr. McNally. And the wrong started off was claimed his son was driving, even though Regina clearly saw his girlfriend. Okay, so that was a fib here.
Actually, Your Honor, if I may, there was just one front seat, a bench seat, and she was sitting in the middle, and Garrett was actually driving.
I don't believe it, sir. You've had some time to reprocess it all. That's not true. She was driving because if you were unloading the truck, you would have had the boy. That's what you raised them for, strong boys. Take the hair out of your eyes so I can see your eyes. Perfect. Thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,800. It's not a good idea, Mr. McNally, to show your son that it's the right thing to do, not to tell the truth. That's a very good lesson that parents should teach their children right from the get-go. And accepting responsibility for what was clearly an accident. I mean, she didn't mean to back into his air conditioner, right?
Right.
It happened. It was an accident. That's why they don't call it an on purpose. It was an accident. But once you have an accident, you have to accept responsibility. That's what you want to teach him. And if he lifts his hair, he'll be able to see and be able to hear better. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
We were all sitting in the front of the bench seat, so I was in the middle, and I think when she initially came out, she saw me sitting in the truck, but maybe she assumed I was sitting in the driver's seat, but I wasn't.
Nope, my vision was great that day. It did make me jump, and my dog was freaking out, so I definitely knew something hit the house.
I told him that my son and I were emptying firewood.
He really didn't do it.
That case was a great demonstration of how being well prepared and doing the right thing can make the justice system work for you in the right way. He had all of his evidence laid out exactly how he needed to present it to you, and he had the damage evidence, he had the photographs, and he did the right thing. He didn't try and get a whole new unit for the $5,000. He said, I'll get the 2 estimates if that's what you want me to do. So it just shows how being prepared and having all your ducks in a row can really benefit you when you come into a court system.
But my problem was telling the lie after you've sworn to tell the truth in front of his son, because those things remain embedded in your children. You want to be a good parent. The first thing you have to teach your children is to be honest. And if he sees that his father